Kuyu livestream company is about to be acquired by Gao Ming. To find out more about the company's business capabilities, Mr. Zeng arranged for two top streamers, Lin Air and AI Ching, to go live together to discuss the novel Goodbye Skunk. During the live stream, AI Ching tried to highlight the good points of the novel, but Lin Air claimed that the story was too outdated and that the female lead relied entirely on a golden finger, or else she would have died 1,000 times. Hearing these negative words, Mr. Zeng immediately demanded to stop the broadcast. Lin Air angrily went into the meeting room and asked why she was cut off. Mr. Zeng looked at Gao Ming sitting beside him and explained that because the company was about to be acquired, he had to strictly control the livestream content. However, Gao Ming looked at Lin Air without blinking and suggested doing one more livestream about Goodbye Skunk. Mr. Zeng had to change his mind. Lin Air shares the same name as the female lead in the novel, and a fan commented that the two seemed like they were past and present lives of each other. Lin Air quickly denied it. Afterward, she took out a model airplane that the male lead loved the most. While introducing the details, she suddenly felt the world spinning and fainted. When she woke up, she found herself in a model airplane museum in the year 1999. In front of her was a familiar face, exactly Gao Ming. A security guard following him asked her to pay for the damages to the museum. Lin Air didn't understand what was happening when a woman named Zhu Meng came to the rescue. Claiming to be her best friend, Lin Air thought she was dreaming, but a pager suddenly popped up with instructions, letting her know she had strayed into a game based on the novel. She has to complete missions without changing the relationships of the characters to win. If she reveals the plot beforehand, she will be punished. Zhu Meng ran up to her, and the pager notified her to transfer 10,000 yuan to Oju. Lin Air remembered that Oju was the female lead's terrible ex-boyfriend in the story, so she blurted it out, violating the game rules. Immediately, she was sent back to the moment she just learned the rules. After a few tries without being able to escape, Lin Air had to ask Zhu Meng to take her to transfer the money to Oju. Leaving the bank and returning to Zhu Meng's house, Oju sent a text message. It turned out Lin Air had transferred the wrong 10,000. Anyway, it was considered a reluctantly completed mission. The pager assigned a new mission. She must make the male lead, Gao Ming, fall in love with her and actively propose so she can return to reality. Zhu Meng received an invitation to the opening of a shopping mall. Lin Air remembered that Gao Ming was one of the shareholders, so she went along. Lutao Group, run by Gao Ming, was intending to open a branch here, so he also came to survey. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Lin Air saw a man with an appearance matching the description of the male lead in the novel, so she proactively went over to say hello. When entering the restroom, Gao Ming received a phone call from his father. Because he had just been teased by two seniors at the event as the sanitary pad tycoon, he retorted harshly and was scolded by his father for being impolite. Right at that moment, Lin Air met Gao Ming and thought that he had also time-traveled like her. She asked him what mission he was assigned, and Gao Ming looked confused. Lin Air thought he was a player, not a character, so she took out a sum of money and asked him to help create an opportunity for her to meet the male lead. While creating a surprise, Gao Ming accidentally crashed into Lin Air and hurriedly hugged her. Lin Air didn't understand why he didn't follow the plan and was too lazy to explain much. When talking to the person she thought was the male lead, she discovered he was wearing a wedding ring, which completely did not match the character. Lin Air immediately called him a jerk. Zhu Meng ran over to apologize to Mr. Liu, and only then did Lin Air realize she had mistaken the person. To relieve a frustrating day, the two went to an amusement park to relax. Returning to Zhu Meng's house, Lin Air saw a family photo of the female lead and asked Zhu Meng about everyone's relationship. Zhu Meng was sad because of a blind date arranged by her family for tomorrow. Lin Air said if she didn't like it, just ruin it. Zhu Meng had no experience, so she asked Lin Air to go to the blind date in her place. The next day, Lin Air arrived at the restaurant for the blind date and discovered the other person was the man she had hired the day before to help create the opportunity. Since she had promised Zhu Meng to ruin the blind date, she tried to act like a flirtatious person. However, Gao Ming did not feel annoyed at all and still chatted politely. Lin Air then claimed she was pregnant before marriage, but Gao Ming still did not refuse, saying that he was required to get married and have children to inherit the family fortune. With no other excuses left, Lin Air prepared to leave. Suddenly, Gao Ming received a phone call. After he introduced himself, Lin Air stood frozen, unable to move. It turned out the person right in front of her was the target she had to complete her mission with. She immediately went back to the table and explained to Gao Ming, but he had no interest in listening. Moreover, he had met Zhu Meng before and knew the person at the blind date was not her. Lin Air wanted to explain more, but Gao Ming walked away. She was boiling with anger. The pager announced that Gao Ming's favorability toward her was negative 50%, truly a tough start. Lin Air decided she had to make Gao Ming change his view of her. She created an accidental meeting in the underground parking garage, purposely parking Zhu Meng's sports car right in front of Gao Ming's car and saying the car was broken and needed fixing. Gao Ming saw right through it. Lin Air's uncomfortable sitting posture in the car clearly showed that this was not the car she usually drove. After Gao Ming left with his assistant, the pager announced that the favorability had dropped to negative 80%. Zhu Meng felt very confused by a series of sudden changes in her friend recently. Lin Air, who had loved her boyfriend for 7 years, now claimed to be love-struck. She complained to her editor and said she was preparing for her next comic book with a best friend theme, and the editor thought it would definitely be a big hit. Lin Air continued to look for opportunities to approach Gao Ming. She held a baby rabbit, trying to look pitiful. Unexpectedly, Gao Ming was allergic to animal fur, and as soon as he got close to the rabbit, he sneezed continuously. Lin Air received a support item and thought it was a tissue, so she handed it to Gao Ming, but who would have thought it was a sanitary pad? Both of them felt awkward. The surprise turned into an awkward incident, and the favorability dropped to negative 100%, activating the punishment mechanism. Lin Air was required to go clean the restrooms. After working hard to finish cleaning, Lin Air couldn't stop complaining, not understanding the point of being punished with cleaning duty. The pager explained that it was to prevent players from lying flat and doing nothing. The love at first sight stage had failed, so next, Lin Air had to try to build a work connection with Gao Ming. On the way back to the company, Gao Ming suddenly remembered that the sanitary pad Lin Air gave him earlier had a very soft material, but he forgot to ask for the brand. To find it, he ran into the supermarket and bought 1 pack of every type. Lu Tao Company held a meeting to discuss business efficiency. Several directors suggested adjusting the ratio of the brands they were acting as agents for. However, Gao Ming believed that to increase profits, they must research and develop their own products. Saying that, he had his assistant show the presentation he had prepared. The chairman of the board thought that was unrealistic because research and development required a lot of time and effort and would not be profitable for a long time, leaving him unsure of how to explain it to the other directors. The meeting ended, and Gao Ming was in charge of interviews. Lin Air had skillfully touched up her job application a bit to cut in line for an interview for the position of general manager's assistant. Gao Ming interviewed her directly and asked about her strengths. Based on the developments of Lu Tao Company in the coming years, according to the novel, Lin Air talked nonstop for a while. The other assistants didn't understand anything, but Gao Ming was very satisfied, even though he still said she did not meet the requirements. The interview ended, but Lin Air still didn't give up. She ran to Gao Ming's office and said she was in a strange environment and had many reluctant circumstances. However, Gao Ming thought she just wanted to find a sugar daddy to rely on, which was why she tried every way to run into him and Mr. Liu. Lin Air couldn't reveal her mission, so she had to accept being misunderstood. Seeing Lin Air not arguing anymore, Gao Ming suddenly asked which brand of sanitary pad she had given him a few days ago. Lin Air discovered she had used up all her sanitary pads while being on her period, so she said goodbye to Gao Ming to go borrow some from other female employees. Even though it was the year 2000, the 2 female employees still acted very shy. Suddenly, Gao Ming walked out of the office and handed Lin Air a pack of sanitary pads. Failing to get the job, Lin Air was extremely depressed. Gao Ming's parents organized a pearl wedding anniversary party celebrating over 30 years of marriage. Zhu Ming received an invitation and decided to take Lin Air along to learn more about Gao Ming. Chairman Chao gave his wife an expensive pearl necklace, then shared a few words about his life reflections. Xie Jun, who grew up with Gao Ming, also attended, and her eyes didn't leave Gao Ming throughout the party. Lin Air arrived a little late, hurriedly went into the restroom to touch up her makeup, and suddenly heard Chairman Chao and his wife talking nearby. They discussed the fact that Xie Jun had just come to greet Gao Ming, but he acted cold. Xie Jun had made it clear that Gao Ming was the one for her, yet he still pretended not to know. Gao Ming's mother also didn't pay attention to Xie Jun's feelings, only defending her son. Chairman Chao advised his wife to think about their son's future, because if the company wants to expand the market to the north, they must rely on the help of the CF family. But his wife didn't think so. She thought her son's happiness was the most important thing. Gao Ming approached the two of them, saying he had urgent business and had to leave first. Chairman Chao looked at his wife and then at his son, with only anger left in his heart. Returning to the main hall, while Chairman Chao and his wife were toasting guests, Xie Jun walked straight up to Gao Ming and asked him when he had time to go try on wedding dresses with her. Gao Ming bluntly answered that he would be very busy for the next few days, clearly not liking Xie Jun. However, Xie Jun didn't realize it at all, kept clinging to Gao Ming. and demanded he take leave to go with her. Lin Er suddenly ran out to the hall, linking arms with Gao Ming's other arm, causing the elders nearby to be extremely surprised. Lin Er whispered in Gao Ming's ear, saying if he wanted to leave early, then cooperate with her. Then, taking advantage of being pushed by Seduction, she pretended to fall, spilling a glass of red wine on Gao Ming. Gao Ming used the excuse of changing clothes to leave first. Chairman Chow explained to everyone that Lin Er was the new female secretary Gao Ming hired on his own. Seduction demanded Lin Er be fired, and Chairman Chow hurriedly agreed to fire her immediately. Lin Er had helped Gao Ming get out of a tight spot, so his attitude toward her was also a bit better. He asked her what her purpose actually was, and Lin Er said she wanted to work at Litao Company. Gao Ming didn't show a clear attitude, only calling his assistant. The weekend traffic was terrible, and Lin Er knew that every time Gao Ming was unhappy, he went home to assemble model airplanes. Coincidentally, she was riding an electric scooter, so she took Gao Ming home. On the way, someone ran a red light, and Lin Er almost crashed into that person. Gao Ming immediately drove the vehicle himself. Arriving home, he told Lin Er that no boss wants an assistant to understand him completely, so she still hadn't passed the interview round, unable to become Gao Ming's assistant. Lin Er recalled that the novel wrote the female lead had gone through another company named Yun Sheng to have a work connection with Gao Ming. That night, she went home and worked hard overtime. The system rewarded Lin Er's positive attitude with a speed-up gift pack. Skipping the interview round at Yun Sheng Company, she stepped directly into the internship stage. Lin Er was assigned a PR task by General Manager Xiang Ling. She was very determined and walked out of the office with a face full of confidence. Colleague Wang Zhen was very surprised to see Lin Er being able to smile walking out of Xiang Ling's office. Project Director Fang Yuan was burning incense and praying in the office. Wang Zhen told Fang Yuan that he was assigned the task of signing a contract with Litao Company. Zhu Meng started serializing the comic Starry Fireflies and received many compliments from readers. The editor thought the storyline was still too simple and suggested enriching the emotional line of the two best friends, which matched Zhu Meng's thoughts. The two happily reached an agreement. To celebrate the comic getting published, Zhu Meng took Lin Er to the mall for shopping. Lin Er bought a lot of things. Zhu Meng realized that Lin Er was now completely different from before, when she only knew how to save money for her boyfriend. Hearing that, Lin Er remarked that her old self really had no self-worth. The two bought a lot of clothes together, and Lin Er fought to pay the bill. The prices 20 years ago were indeed very cheap. Zhu Meng advised Lin Er to save some living expenses for Oju, but Lin Er didn't care at all. Oju texted telling her to transfer money to him. Lin Er pretended not to see it and continued dragging Zhu Meng to take sticker photos. Sales of the AI Bao Bao baby diapers distributed by Litao Company were continuously dropping. Besides changing the representative, Gao Ming was also secretly preparing to build his own production line and told his assistant not to reveal the information. Afterward, he invited friends to go shooting. Lin Er, as a PR specialist from Yun Sheng Company, went to Litao Company to find Gao Ming. The receptionist announced that she couldn't enter without an appointment. After Lin Er left, Gao Ming's assistant saw she had come to bother them again and instructed that from now on, Lin Er was not allowed into the company at any time. Lin Er returned to the company and submitted the PR plan one day late. Xiang Ling's expression was very bad. Lin Er handed over another PR plan for Litao Company. Xiang Ling kept both copies, reviewed them carefully, saw the feasibility was very high, and immediately stood up to prepare to go to Litao Company. Lin Er guessed Xiang Ling's intention, quickly stepped forward to nominate herself, saying she was ready to go instead, and if the negotiation was successful, the credit would all belong to Xiang Ling. Lin Er went to Litao Company once again. Even though she had made an appointment in advance, she still couldn't get in. Lin Er racked her brain and pretended to be a foreigner to get into the office building. Just then, Gao Ming walked by and advised her to stop causing trouble. In the board meeting, Gao Ming still didn't have a clear attitude about changing the agency model. The elders tried their best to advise him, saying Litao was Chairman Chow's life's work, hoping Gao Ming could maintain the business. Suddenly, Lin Er appeared outside the glass window, dangling from safety rope. Gao Ming hurriedly pulled her into the room. Lin Er still wanted to give him the PR plan, begging him to put aside his prejudice against her and review the document seriously. After Gao Ming agreed, Lin Er went out to pay the fine to the security department. The pager displayed a notification. Phase 1 of the mission was completed. Next, she must find a way to make Gao Ming love her. While eating with Zhu Meng, Oju texted telling her to transfer tuition money. Lin Er pretended not to see it. Oju called Zhu Meng, so Lin Er had to answer the phone. Since she actually had no relationship with Oju, Lin Air acted very coldly, even telling Zhu to write an IOU for the money she had given before, including interest. After hanging up, Zhu Meng was stunned. A tough 7-year long-distance relationship with Zhu. Yet Lin Air seemed to have completely turned into a different person. Lin Air didn't care at all, saying that one must be a bit cruel to cheaters. Suddenly, the pager reported a plot reveal, and Lin Air worried she would be punished again, so she had to ask for a do-over. Called Zhu back and seriously apologized. Lutao Company responded in the newspaper regarding the incident of insect eggs found in Bei Cuckoo diapers. Fully applying Lin Air's PR plan, Chao Shan took the opportunity to announce the engagement of Gao Ming and Xie Jun to curry favor with the Xie family, and also to prepare Gao Ming mentally. The assistant knew Gao Ming didn't like Xie Jun, so he couldn't help but worry. Gao Ming said that he could use Lin Air to change Chao Shan's attitude. The next day, Gao Ming proactively went to Yun Sheng to discuss cooperation, specifically requesting that from now on, all connections with Lutao be handled by Lin Air. Lin Air guessed that Gao Ming definitely had an ulterior motive, so she suggested increasing the service fee by 20%. Gao Ming agreed immediately. Fang Yuan was overjoyed, hurriedly drafted the contract, and told Lin Air to take it to Lutao Company that very night to avoid Gao Ming changing his mind. As Lin Air was preparing to leave, Xie Jun suddenly came to the company, demanding to see the boss of Yinsheng. Xie Jun took out a business card, and Fang Yuan knew she was the young lady of Fu Chuang Group, so he immediately became enthusiastic. Xie Jun demanded Lin Air be fired immediately. In exchange, she promised to sign a contract for Fu Chuang to use Yinsheng's PR team for 10 years. Lin Air deliberately added fuel to the fire, saying that after being fired by Yinsheng, she could legitimately go to Lutao to work, which was exactly what she wanted. Xie Jun regretted it a bit and decided to settle the score slowly. The promised contract remained valid, but she required that from now on. The connection with Fu Chuang must also be handled by Lin Air. Fang Yuan agreed immediately, bringing in 2 big contracts for the company in just 1 day. Fang Yuan happily said he would definitely give Lin Air a huge bonus. As for delivering the contract overnight, Fang Yuan didn't dare to rush her anymore, telling Lin Air to just go home and rest first. The next day, when Lin Air arrived at Lutao Company to deliver the contract, Gao Ming was in a meeting. While waiting, the pager announced that due to her positive performance, the system rewarded a big gift pack. Right after that, a bottle of 502 glue spilled onto the chest of Lin Air's shirt. She didn't understand what its effect was, and was trying to figure out how to handle it when she turned around and bumped into Gao Ming, who had just returned to the office. Gao Ming immediately unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his attractive chest muscles. Lin Air's heart started beating fast, thinking that letting Gao Ming take off all his clothes wouldn't be good. So she suggested finding a pair of scissors to cut the glued part. Gao Ming immediately picked up Lin Air and carried her out of the office to look for scissors. Several employees saw Gao Ming carrying an unfamiliar woman and whispered among themselves. Gao Ming went to the front desk and told Lin Air to cut the shirt. Lin Air cut carefully, and in the end, the cut part was shaped like a heart. She hurriedly apologized. Every time they met, there was a new trick. The assistant teased Lin Air that it was a waste she was an actress. Lin Air was preparing to return to her company when she met Chao Shan at the door. Chao Shan invited Lin Air into the car for a private talk, asking her how much money she wanted to get close to Gao Ming. Lin Air said she only intended to stay with Gao Ming for 5 months, and then she would leave. Chao Shan didn't believe it at all. To set his mind at ease, Lin Air suggested he give her 5,000 yuan and guaranteed she wouldn't catch feelings for Gao Ming. But Chao Shan handed her 50,000 yuan straight away. Seeing Lin Air happily get out of the car with the money, Gao Ming remained calm, because their relationship was mutually beneficial anyway. Next, he went to eat with Xie Jun. She kept bringing up little memories from their school days, and then mentioned marriage again. Gao Ming replied that right now he only wanted to focus on work and had no intention of getting married yet. After the meal, Gao Ming told Luo Zhou to take Xie Jun home. Xie Jun insisted that Luo Zhou tell her the relationship between Gao Ming and Lin Air. Luo Zhou told the story exactly as Gao Ming had instructed, but Xie Jun still had no intention of giving up. Lin Air and Zhu Meng were playing a puzzle game together. Zhu Meng mentioned that back in school, Hu Han was the best at playing this game. Lin Air suddenly remembered that in the novel, Hu Han eventually sacrificed himself for a mission. She intended to warn Zhu Meng, but felt she shouldn't use the restart mechanism arbitrarily. The next day, Lin Air found a fighter jet model that Gao Ming had finished assembling the night before and intended to scribble all over it. Gao Ming hurriedly stopped her. Lin Air took the chance to hint that Lutao Company had used her plan without permission. Gao Ming immediately took out his phone to prove that Lin Air only sent the plan in the afternoon, while he had come up with the exact same solution in the morning. The misunderstanding was cleared up, so Gao Ming invited Lin Air to eat to prepare for a new round of cooperation. Lin Air knew his preference, so she ordered angel hair pasta. Gao Ming looked surprised. Lin Air claimed to know how to read minds, then analyzed that Gao Ming had endless luck with romance, but his career faced many obstacles. Gao Ming said that the bigger the family business, the more things there are to worry about, so naturally, he couldn't live as impulsively as Lin Air. However, while analyzing, Lin Air's eyes kept looking up to the left, clearly recalling something. Her so-called mind reading was seen through by Gao Ming immediately. Lin Air still wanted to ask why Gao Ming liked assembling fighter jet models, but he said he would answer next time. When taking Lin Air back, she left her keys in the car. Gao Ming found her eating wontons at a roadside stall to return them. He discovered someone was secretly following them, so he intentionally leaned close to Lin Air's ear to whisper so that person could take a picture. Luo Zhou took Gao Ming home and realized he was very different from before. He was clearly happy inside, but shy about showing it. Arriving home, Chao Shan asked about the new product research. Gao Ming explained that Lu Tao was currently too conservative, and this was not a long-term strategy. Chao Shan wanted his son to take a shortcut, thinking that being noticed by Xie Jun was a blessing for the Chao family. But Gao Ming didn't think so. He believed that any shortcut comes with a price. Gao Ming's mother pulled him aside to talk. She said that when he was small, because she was absorbed in business, she owed her son too much. Therefore, in marriage, she didn't want Gao Ming to settle anymore. Whatever he chose, she would support him. Gao Ming asked Lin Air out to the shooting park. The two agreed that the loser had to say a truthful word. Under Gao Ming's dedicated guidance, Lin Air reluctantly won. Afterward, they had a picnic together by the lake. Gao Ming expressed that he didn't want to interfere in anyone's feelings. He just wanted to be a silent catalyst. Dating photos of Gao Ming and Lin Air were secretly taken again and published in a magazine 2 days later. Chao Shan was just angry after seeing them, and Xie Jun was even more unhappy. Lin Air saw her photos and had unspeakable suffering. She intended to use Gao Ming, but who would have thought she was trapped by him? Zhu Ming reminded Lin Air that two-timing would be discovered sooner or later, and Ju was about to return to the country. The next day at work, Wang Zhen took the magazine to ask Lin Air for an explanation. Fang Yuan also called to say he would give her a spot bonus. Lin Air said she didn't need anything, but if he insisted on a reward, please have Xiang Ling accept it for her. Xie Jun immediately called demanding she come to the Rose Manor at Nantong Mountain to deliver the contract. Xiang Ling overheard the conversation from the side and was so happy she couldn't close her mouth, immediately arranging for Wang Zhen to fully support Lin Air's work. After delivering the contract, it was already getting dark. Lin Air walked out to the bus stop and discovered the last bus had run at 5 o'clock, and she had just missed it. She tried to wave down a few passing cars, but no one paid attention. Luo Zhou reported Lin Air's schedule to Gao Ming. He was silently worrying when he received a phone call from her, begging him to come pick her up. Before she could finish saying the address, the phone cut off, and Gao Ming immediately told Luo Zhou to check the map. It started to rain, and Lin Air was looking forward to a miracle, preferably Gao Ming suddenly appearing. She took off her soaked shoes and sat waiting in the shelter. In a daze, she thought she saw Gao Ming reaching his hand out to her, but then hope vanished, leaving only the sound of falling rain. A few minutes later, a taxi stopped in front of her. Lin Air hurriedly got in the car and was surprised to see the driver had prepared a clean towel and slippers. She just thought it was a reward the system gave her. After the taxi left, Gao Ming picked up Lin Air's wet shoes. It turned out the taxi was also specially arranged by him. Only Lin Air didn't know it all. Late at night, Lin Air finally arrived at the Fu Chuang Group office. Xie Jun saw her ragged appearance and felt a bit smug inside. Lin Air kindly reminded her that if Xie Jun wanted to be with Gao Ming, she shouldn't point the spear at her, but should directly attack Gao Ming, or become the main character in her own life. Although she didn't like Lin Air, Xie Jun felt that what she said made some sense. The next day, Fang Yuan drafted another contract. Lin Air had a cold, but still insisted on going to deliver the documents. Xie Jun went to Lu Tao to bring cake for Gao Ming, again recounting small stories from the past. Lin Air suddenly walked in. Xie Jun hated that she always ruined her good things, so she intended to strike her, but was blocked by Gao Ming. Xie Jun angrily left. Seeing Lin Air had a cold, Gao Ming took leave to take her home. Zhu Ming originally planned to participate in an activity at the police camp, but because Lin Air was sick, she stayed home to take care of her. A colleague called, and hearing the lively atmosphere on the phone, Zhu Ming was extremely envious. Just feeling a little better, Lin Air received a text message saying someone came to her house to collect a debt, so she had to return immediately. Remembering the alcoholic father and the introverted, closed-off younger sister in the novel, Lin Air tried to adapt as fast as possible. But when she returned, she saw several men sitting on the sofa, clearly not looking like debt collectors. Lin Air's younger sister explained that they were people arranged by Chao Shan to pretend to scare her. Xie Jun told her father that she wanted to quickly develop feelings with Gao Ming. Her father said the Chao family had to rely on him to expand the northern market, so she could go to their house to talk frankly. Chao Shan still wanted his son to give up, so he once again arranged to meet Lin Air, while keeping the call open with Gao Ming, just so his son could clearly see her true face of vanity. He asked Lin Air straight out how much money she wanted to leave Gao Ming. Lin Air replied that Chao Shan didn't understand his son at all. Then she returned the 50,000 yuan he gave her before and turned to leave. As soon as she opened the door, she saw Gao Ming standing right outside. Gao Ming told Lin Air to wait for him at the door, then went into the room to say hello to Chao Shan. Chao Shan advised his son to be careful with girls who only want money, thinking the recent conversation said it all. But Gao Ming didn't really care. The two of them left the Chao family home together. Lin Air apologized for what she said earlier. Gao Ming thought she was actually right, saying that not everything can be measured by benefits, especially marriage. The fact that Lin Air voluntarily returned the money Chao Shan gave her proved that she wasn't after his family's social status. After that, he drove Lin Air home. As soon as she got out of the car, her pager notified her that the favorability score had gone up to 30%, making Lin Air feel very successful. When she got home, Lin Zheng had cooked a table full of food. Lin Air reminded her sister that she and their dad were in a Cold War and hadn't been home for a long time. Lin Air completely forgot the reason why they were mad at each other. Lin Air brought up the fact that in order to save up for Ju's tuition, she had to work 3 part-time jobs at once. Lin Zheng couldn't bear seeing that, so he slapped her really hard. Lin Air immediately promised that she would never do things like that again. Chao Shan had sent people to their house to cause trouble. Lin Zheng was worried his daughter was in debt to gangsters, so he gave the property deed to Lin Air to go mortgage it. Lin Air announced she wouldn't spend another penny on Ju, which shocked Lin Zheng, who couldn't understand why his daughter had changed so much. The next day, as Gao Ming was getting ready for work, Chao Shan announced that General Manager Xie was coming over and demanded that he not go out no matter what. A few minutes later, Xie Jun and her father arrived at the Chao family home. Chao Shan welcomed them enthusiastically, while Gao Ming didn't say a word. Gao Ming's mother saw her son was unhappy, so she found an excuse to take him to the rooftop and told him that if he didn't like Xie Jun, he could just leave. During work hours, Lin Air received a new phone. When she turned it on, she saw a phone number already saved. Thinking Zhu Ming gave it to her, she called to say thanks. Gao Ming didn't have his phone with him, so Xie Jun answered it. Hearing Lin Air's voice, she said that the two families were preparing to get engaged and told Lin Air to stop flattering herself. Hearing the news that Gao Ming was getting engaged, Lin Air immediately asked for time off and ran to the Chao family home. By this time, Chao Shan had a party set up in the yard. Xie Jun returned the phone to Gao Ming and said that Lin Air had just called. Hearing that, Gao Ming ran into his room to call her back. Lin Air had just snuck into the house when she saw the shoes she left at the Rose Manor placed in front of Gao Ming's bedroom door, and he was standing right in front of her too. Gao Ming asked why she was sneaking into his room. Suddenly hearing Xie Jun coming upstairs, Lin Air whispered that she could help him get away from Xie Jun, then pulled him close and pretended to kiss him. Xie Jun arrived just then, and seeing the two of them hugging and kissing, she boiled with anger. Lin Air knew she had caused trouble, so she hurriedly grabbed her shoes and slipped away. Chao Shan scolded Gao Ming for not thinking straight. After this incident, the relationship between the two families was basically over. He blamed his son for being obsessed and forced him to cut ties with Lin Air. For the first time, Gao Ming argued back decisively. He said that Lu Tao was his life's work too, and it would never rely solely on Fu Chuang. From childhood until now, he had listened to his family's arrangements for everything, but from now on, he wanted to make his own decisions. Chao Shan invited General Manager Xie to the house again to apologize, offering to give up 3% of the profits to continue their cooperation. But Mr. Xie didn't care about that small profit because Xie Jun was his only daughter and everything had to prioritize making her happy. That night, Lin Air thought back and felt that she and Gao Ming had gotten along quite well during the day, so she didn't understand why the favorability score on the pager didn't go up. Looking at the shoes Gao Ming had wrapped carefully, she felt unexpectedly touched. Zhu Ming was preparing to attend a meeting. When passing the traffic post where Hu Han was on duty, she pretended her car had broken down to ask him for a ride. Hu Han didn't get Zhu Ming's hint and asked a colleague to help her fix the car, making Zhu Ming so angry that she left the car there and walked away on her own. Fu Chuang was preparing to acquire 60% of Lu Tao's shares. Xie Jun seemed arrogant, guessing that Lu Tao had no way out. Luo Zhou suddenly received news that the head of research and development and his whole team had quit simultaneously and moved to another company. He hurriedly reported it to Gao Ming. Gao Ming guessed that Fu Chuang had been pulling strings behind the scenes for a long time, so he could only immediately post job openings, offering salaries 5 times higher to recruit new staff for the research and development department. Zhu Ming had already guessed the ambition of the Fu Chuang group, and the marriage alliance was just one of the reasons. Xie Jun talked to her father, showing her determination to take over Lu Tao. However, Mr. Xie thought they shouldn't underestimate their opponent, because Gao Ming probably wouldn't give up easily. Gao Ming felt troubled. Lin Er texted inviting him downstairs for a walk, and while she was at it, invited him for coffee and gave him a stress relief doll. Gao Ming returned to the company to work overtime. Seeing a list of potential partner companies on his desk, he praised Luo Zhou for being thoughtful. But Luo Zhou said he hadn't drafted any list. The next day, when he visited Dr. Li's team, he found out that Lin Er had already helped him submit the documents. Zhu Ming asked Hu Han out for a meal. While she was carefully choosing her outfit, Hu Han texted back saying he couldn't make it on time because he was on duty. Making Zhu Ming so angry, she called Hu Han an idiot. Chao Shan asked Gao Ming why he didn't attend the board meeting. Gao Ming said that his opinion wasn't supported by anyone, so attending was useless. Director Li had persuaded a few other directors, and they all agreed with independent research and development. Mr. Li also advised Chao Shan not to worry too much and to give Gao Ming a little more time. Lin Er read the newspaper and discovered that Wei Zhuang had just quit his job at his old company. In the novel, this person had helped Gao Ming overcome the company's crisis. Lin Er immediately called Gao Ming, and the two of them drove to find Wei Zhuang. Wei Zhuang was a motorcycle enthusiast. He had just returned to his office area from a road trip with friends. Gao Ming handed him a business card and briefly introduced Lu Tao Company's idea for producing sanitary pads. Although Wei Zhuang specialized in researching high polymer materials, they were mainly applied in agriculture. So he had no interest in the sanitary pad industry and quickly sent them away. Wei Zhuang went out to the yard to maintain his motorcycle. Lin Er was also a road trip lover, so she immediately went over to help him change the oil filter. Wei Zhuang was preparing for a road trip to the highlands, but his equipment looked very unprofessional. Lin Er said she had better suggestions, but since it was already dark, she asked to stay at the resort for a night so she could share more the next day. When checking in at the guest house, the receptionist said there was only one room left. Gao Ming hesitated a bit, but Lin Er thought this wasn't the time to be indecisive, so they should just stay. The two of them walked into the room and discovered there was a problem with the electrical system. When they tried to open the door to leave, they found it was locked. Gao Ming immediately called Luo Zhou to ask him to contact the receptionist. Lin Er realized this room seemed to be a storage room, so she looked for tools to open the door. Gao Ming asked Lin Er about her feelings on road tripping. She said she really wanted to challenge Route 318, but her work was so busy that it was hard to go. To prepare for the Route 318 trip, Lin Er had binge-watched a lot of videos. Gao Ming didn't understand what binge-watch meant, and Lin Er remembered they weren't from the same era, so she couldn't explain it clearly. She asked Gao Ming if he had any wishes, and he said he also wanted to go on a road trip with the person he liked. Finally, the receptionist managed to open the door. It turned out that because it had been so long, the room number plate was loose, so the number 6 flipped upside down to become a 9, causing the two of them to enter the storage room by mistake. After changing rooms, Lin Er asked Wei Zhuang's assistant to set up another meeting with him. The assistant said that Wei Zhuang wouldn't change his mind, but there was a bonfire party that evening and invited the two of them to join. The three of them drank together. Lin Er asked about the reason Wei Zhuang switched industries. The assistant said he had faced unfair treatment, so he was very disappointed with the high polymer material industry. Lin Er thought that one shouldn't easily give up on a field they had spent years researching. Whether it was agriculture or women's products, they could all prove a person's professional competence. Gao Ming also believed that domestic high polymer materials couldn't just rely on imports. The new millennium was coming, and international trade would definitely develop. If they could successfully research and develop independently, it would also be a major contribution to the country. The two of them asked the assistant to help persuade him one more time. The bonfire party ended, and Lin Er seriously reached out to cup Gao Ming's face, praising him for being handsome. Gao Ming felt a bit shy. Lin Er immediately pretended to be drunk. Gao Ming took off his jacket to drape over her, and then carried her back to the room. Seeing Lin Er hugging him without letting go, Gao Ming realized she was just pretending to be drunk. Lin Er said she was afraid of the dark sleeping alone, and kept holding on to Gao Ming, not letting him leave. With no other choice, Gao Ming had to stay in the same room. The two of them lay in the same bed, separated by a pillow in the middle. Waiting for Lin Air to fall asleep, Gao Ming quietly went to the desk and wrote a contract. The next morning, the two of them held the contract and waited at the door. Wei Zhuang stepped out of the room, and Gao Ming hurriedly stepped forward to hand over the contract, saying that if he agreed to cooperate, the company would absolutely not interfere with any issues related to research and development in the future. If Wei Zhuang was dissatisfied with anything, he could unilaterally terminate the contract at any time. The female assistant immediately took the contract and agreed to cooperate. While both were confused, the assistant explained that she was actually Wei Zhuang, and the man they mistook was her older brother, Wei Chong. Because work wasn't going well, the siblings planned to go on a road trip to clear their minds. But after interacting for 2 days, they saw Gao Ming's sincerity and foresight. So they agreed to cooperate on research. Back at Lutao Company, Wei Zhuang quickly got to work. Lin Air was also in charge of market research. Everything was progressing smoothly when Lin Air suddenly received a random mission. She had to kiss Gao Ming for no reason. Lin Air was extremely nervous. Their relationship really hadn't reached the point where they could kiss. So she followed Gao Ming to the finance department. And when passing the break room and seeing there weren't many people, she rushed over to kiss him. Gao Ming was very surprised. Several colleagues who were resting gathered around to watch the scene. Lin Air was extremely embarrassed, explaining that she and everyone else were not from the same era. Because it involved revealing the plot, she triggered the time travel mechanism. Lin Air was too shy to kiss him again, so she had to voluntarily give up a chance. Gao Ming suddenly suggested taking Lin Air somewhere. The two of them went to a fighter jet model shop. Gao Ming admitted that he was usually very boring and only liked making a few models. But Lin Air thought that was the expression of a rich soul. After that, he opened a secret room, inside of which was a model he had just finished assembling. Gao Ming said he just finished assembling this model yesterday and asked Lin Air to help paint it. Lin Air admitted she wasn't a pro and was afraid of ruining his work. Gao Ming told her to just go ahead and paint it however she liked. Lin Air painted the model airplane in all kinds of colors. Gao Ming was very curious. She explained that she hoped the upcoming millennium would be colorful and brilliant, just like this model. Gao Ming leaned in close to talk to Lin Air, and his chin accidentally got some paint on it. Lin Air took a cotton ball and gently wiped it off for him, and both of their hearts were pounding. Gao Ming received a phone call and told Luo Zhou to come to the model shop to find him. Seeing Gao Ming had business, Lin Air left first and went to have tea with Zhu Ming. Zhu Ming heard that Lin Air had helped find Wei Zhuang to solve the technical problem and was very impressed. Lin Air explained that Wei Zhuang was the rare talent. But women in the workplace always have to suffer many injustices. Zhu Ming also sympathized greatly. Luo Zhou had secretly investigated Lin Air and knew that she and her boyfriend Oh Ju had been in love for 7 years, and she even earned money to support Oh Ju's studies abroad. The next day at work, Lin Air went to Lutao Company to deliver documents. Gao Ming asked what her intentions were when she kindly helped him find Dr. Wei's team. Lin Air explained that she was just helping a friend, and if things could go further, then even better. Gao Ming said that it wasn't necessary to do that, because Lin Air's outfit was quite revealing. Gao Ming also reminded her that when she comes to the company to see him in the future, she should pay attention to how she dresses. Gao Ming and Hu Han met up at the shooting club. On the way there, he kept thinking about Lin Air's unusual actions. She clearly had a boyfriend, so why was she still chasing him? At the club, there were some men who wanted to socialize with Hu Han, but actually, it was because they had been fined by him before and wanted to cause trouble. Gao Ming actively challenged them, and since their skills were inferior, they had to slink away. Hu Han guessed that Gao Ming had something on his mind. Gao Ming asked if a relationship was destined not to work out, should one give it up in time. Hu Han recalled the meal before graduation with Lin Air and Oh Ju. Remembering Lin Air's reluctant look, but since they were not from the same world, he thought it was best to give up at the right time. Going to the model shop to continue assembling, Gao Ming kept getting distracted and accidentally dropped one of the airplane wings. The next day, he suddenly ran to Yunsheng Company to find Fang Yuan directly, saying that the contract between the two companies would continue. Moreover, Lutao would yield 3% of the profit, and from now on Lin Air would be in charge of marketing for female products, inviting Lin Air to work at Lutao. Fang Yuan agreed immediately without any hesitation. Hu Han finally had time to date Zhu Ming, yet he asked about the recent situation of Lin Air and Oh Ju. Zhu Ming was a bit unhappy, but still said that their relationship was stable. It was just that Lin Air was busy with work, so she might communicate less. As soon as Lin Air moved to Lutao, Gao Ming assigned her a lot of work, so much that she had to work overtime to finish. After work, Lin Air was the only one left in the office. Gao Ming asked Luo Zhou to order wontons for her. Lin Air tasted it and found it was still the same flavor she had eaten last time. When taking the elevator after work, Gao Ming stood right at the door but forgot to press the button. Lin Air guessed he was waiting for her, but his attitude had suddenly changed in the last 2 days, and she didn't know why. Arriving home, Lin Air asked Zhu Meng why she liked Hu Han. For what she saw, Hu Han wasn't particularly enthusiastic towards Zhu Meng. Zhu Meng said that Hu Han just didn't like to show it on the outside, and back in high school, he often helped her out of trouble. Seeing Zhu Meng holding a bottle of sunscreen spray brought back from England, Lin Air decided to bring it to the company tomorrow to see if Gao Ming would get jealous. Just as Lin Air guessed, Gao Ming quickly asked his friends to buy a whole box of sunscreen spray from Hong Kong. After he gave it to Lin Air, she generously offered it to everyone, and every female colleague took a bottle. Seeing that, Gao Ming was unhappy again. Near the end of the workday, Gao Ming found Lin Air and said that she would temporarily replace Luo Zhou as his personal assistant. Early the next morning, Lin Air arrived at Gao Ming's villa and waited. Gao Ming walked downstairs holding a tie, and Lin Air immediately helped him tie it in a very beautiful style. Gao Ming asked why she knew such a unique way to tie it, and Lin Air explained that she learned this not specifically for a man. Gao Ming thought she was talking about Oju, so he ignored her and went out by himself. Lin Air thought Gao Ming wasn't going to work that day, but when she arrived at the company, she saw him in his office. Thinking that Gao Ming was intentionally making things difficult for her, she was angry all morning. After work, she suddenly remembered Oju, whom Zhu Meng often mentioned. So she opened her email to look at his photo, and unexpectedly, he was very handsome. She was laughing while looking at it when she suddenly discovered Gao Ming standing behind her. She hurriedly turned off the computer. Gao Ming told Lin Air to come with him somewhere. Seeing that Gao Ming was finally willing to compromise, Lin Air felt secretly smug. The two of them went to a restaurant and saw that Hu Han and Zhu Meng were also there. The four of them sat at the same table for dinner. Hearing that Lin Air, Hu Han, and Zhu Meng were high school classmates, Gao Ming was very curious and wanted to ask about those days. Zhu Meng mentioned the 4-person squad, which included Oju. Lin Air hurriedly interrupted, steering the conversation to Hu Han and Zhu Meng's relationship. Zhu Meng was very happy, while Hu Han was as quiet as a mouse. Because Lin Air kept pouring him drinks, Gao Ming drank a lot. Afterward, the two of them went for a walk on the street. Lin Air asked if he liked her, or if he was jealous, telling him to pick one of the two. Gao Ming hesitated for a long time, finally lying to himself and saying he hated her. Naturally, Lin Air didn't believe it, because Gao Ming had spent so much effort to transfer her to Lutao to work, and also frequently found opportunities to be with her. These were all signs that he liked her. Upon getting home, while still drunk, Gao Ming called the radio station to request a song for Lin Air. The next day, he received a response that the song had been placed on the waiting list to be played. Gao Ming regretted it a bit, but the radio station announced that the request couldn't be canceled. Luo Zhou came to the house to pick Gao Ming up for work. Gao Ming remembered that Luo Zhou had a friend working at the radio station, so he asked him to help cancel the song request from the night before. Not knowing how to face Lin Air, Gao Ming planned not to go to the company all day. Luo Zhou reminded him that there was an important meeting in the afternoon, so he had to be present. Arriving at the company, Gao Ming saw Lin Air's seat was empty and thought she had been assigned to go out. Suddenly, Lin Air brought over a glass of grape juice. Gao Ming was very surprised, and he told her that starting today, she didn't need to be his assistant anymore. Lin Air recalled Gao Ming saying he hated her after drinking, and now it seemed to be confirmed. So she sadly left the office. Zhu Meng received a call from the publisher. Her serialized comic Firefly Stars was about to be published. She went to the publishing house to sign the contract. While waiting for a ride, a man stopped his car by the road to strike up a conversation. Just then, Hu Han passed by. He asked the man to show his driver's license and wrote him a ticket for illegal parking. Then he took Zhu Meng to the publishing house on his motorcycle. After arriving at the publishing house, Hu Han asked Zhu Meng out for dinner on Sunday. Zhu Meng intended to drive herself, but Hu Han offered to be her driver. Lin Air was working at the company while listening to the radio. When the afternoon song request time arrived, Gao Ming was still worried his request hadn't been canceled. So he told Luo Zhou to arrange for Lin Air to go work with the laboratory. Lin Air took a taxi, and Gao Ming followed her out to the building entrance. Hearing that the taxi was also playing the radio, he immediately offered to drive her himself. Getting in the car, Lin Air tried to turn on the radio, but Gao Ming said the car radio was broken. Lin Air noticed the direction was not towards the laboratory. Gao Ming suggested going to the Riverside Park for a walk. Upon arrival, Lin Air happily got out of the car to look at the sea. As a child, Gao Ming had almost drowned, so he didn't dare go too close to the sea. Lin Air didn't know that. She enthusiastically pulled him right to the shore. making a wish to herself that she could time travel back soon. When she turned back to look at Gao Ming, she saw he was so tense he was trembling, so she had to quickly leave the shore. Just as they found a bench to sit on, Gao Ming received a phone call reporting that the production line had suddenly encountered a problem. For a moment, he didn't know how to handle it. A stalled production line would cause a backlog of raw materials, so the equipment problem had to be solved quickly. According to the backup plan, there were two companies supplying replacement equipment in Italy and Switzerland. Lin Air suggested choosing the equipment from Italy, although the upfront cost was a bit higher. The future profits would be significant. Gao Ming quickly flew to Italy. On the day of his return to the country, his flight suddenly lost contact. The whole company was in a panic. Lin Air and Luo Zhou went to the airport to ask about the situation. The airport temporarily couldn't determine the length of the delay. Lin Air held her pager, standing at the exit, praying that nothing had happened to Gao Ming. A while later, she suddenly heard Gao Ming calling her name. Without thinking twice, Lin Air rushed straight into his arms. While Gao Ming and Lin Air were talking, they heard someone call a name. Turning around, they saw Cheng In. The two families had been close friends for many years. Ju stood right next to Cheng In, making Lin Air guess this was the girlfriend she had never met, but she didn't know how to start the conversation. Gao Ming introduced Lin Air to Cheng In, then intentionally mentioned that Lin Air's boyfriend was also returning to the country today. Ju, standing nearby, hurriedly interrupted, actively greeting Gao Ming. Gao Ming then asked Cheng In if she had a boyfriend yet. Cheng In immediately told him not to be nosy. Cheng In took Ju to her house. She was a bit unhappy because Ju introduced her to Gao Ming as just a classmate. Ju explained that because he hadn't been accepted by Cheng In's parents yet, he didn't want many people to know. He wanted to wait until he had a solid career before making their relationship public. Cheng In actually believed it and promised to find a way to arrange a job for him. Finally, Ju had time to meet Lin Air. The two ate together. When Lin Air asked why he returned to the country with Cheng In, Ju started complaining about his hardships. He said the living expenses Lin Air sent were completely insufficient, and he had to manage on his own. During that time, he met Cheng In, a girl with a wealthy background, and hoped to rely on her to build a career. Therefore, he suggested breaking up with Lin Air temporarily. Looking at Ju's hypocritical appearance, Lin Air just felt disgusted. She couldn't control herself and rushed forward to scold him severely. But suddenly, because the plot was changed, the system reversed. Returning to the exact moment, Ju suggested breaking up. This time, Lin Air immediately and happily agreed, only demanding Ju return all the living expenses she had provided him over the past few years. Meanwhile, Cheng had designed a series of small comic strips for Lutao Company, which were very suitable for female products. Gao Ming was very satisfied and assigned Lin Air to be in charge of the cooperation. Gao Ming asked Cheng In how long she had known Ju, and learned that Ju had cheated right after going abroad to study. Cheng In asked Gao Ming to arrange a job for Ju. Gao Ming found it hard to refuse. When Ju came to Lutao for an interview, Gao Ming asked directly about his studies in England. Ju claimed he was from a poor family and had to work while studying to pay tuition. Gao Ming immediately said he heard there was a girlfriend in the country who silently supported him. Ju had to admit it, but made up a story that the girlfriend cheated, hurting his feelings, so he came to Cheng In. Just then, the assistant came in to find Gao Ming to sign papers, conveniently leaving a phone on the table. Ju saw the message Lin Air sent to Gao Ming and angrily walked out. Back in his room, he cursed Lin Air terribly, saying she rushed to break up with him because she had latched onto a high branch. Suddenly, Cheng In knocked on the door asking about the interview result. Ju lied that his philosophy and Lutao companies didn't match, and he wanted to try at other companies. Cheng In showed sympathy and promised to continue introducing him. After leaving Ju's room, Cheng In recalled Lin Air's surprised look when she said Ju had never loved anyone. Then pondered Ju's words. She felt something wasn't quite the truth. Ju met a few old classmates for a meal and complained that Lin Air had a change of heart. A friend named Xiao Qiu texted retelling Ju's words to Zhu Ming. At that time, Zhu Ming was walking on the street with Hu Han, reading the message. She ran to the restaurant at full speed. When she arrived, Ju was still whining. As soon as Zhu Ming entered the door, she picked up a wine bottle. She knew best how hard Lin Air had worked to support Ju during his 3 years abroad, so she definitely had to teach him a lesson. Ju denied lying and said he had Hu Han as a witness. Zhu Ming pulled Hu Han out of the restaurant. Indeed, Hu Han had seen Lin Air and Gao Ming act intimately in a car, but Zhu Ming didn't believe it. That evening, Lin Air sought out Zhu Ming, advising her friend not to be upset on her behalf. Precisely because she saw through Ju, She knew wasting another minute on him wasn't worth it. All the bad rumors Ju threw at her, she would return them all. Another time, when Chung-in came to Lutao to discuss cooperation, she bumped into Lin Air. Lin Air showed her the new comic created by Zhu Ming to ask for advice. Chung-in took it and promised to study it carefully. Zhu Ming called to apologize to Ju, with Lin Air sitting next to her plotting. Ju didn't hold a grudge anyway. Seeing Zhu Ming intentionally call to apologize and bringing up school friendship, his anger subsided. Zhu Ming took the opportunity to invite Ju to join the class reunion. Ju feared meeting Lin Air would be awkward, so he made an excuse that he didn't have time. Lin Air signaled from the side, telling Zhu Ming to use the praise to take down tactic. Zhu Ming immediately praised Ju as the most promising among the classmates, and that many people were curious about life in England. Ju loved the feeling of being praised, so he agreed to join. Chung-in came to the hotel to find Ju. He said there was a class reunion in a few days. Chung-in wanted to go along and also asked about Lin Air. Ju thought Chung-in had realized a relationship between him and Lin Air, so he hurriedly explained again that his classmates had poor backgrounds, not on the same level as Chung-in. Chung-in was still angry because since returning to the country, Ju had never introduced her to family or friends. Ju said he had his own hardships. When Chung-in kept asking, he made up a story that his father was seriously ill in the hospital and the family was running out of money. Hearing that, Chung-in took out a savings card with 200,000 yuan to give him. After refusing a few times, Ju finally accepted it. As Zhu Ming was preparing to go out, Hu Han came to apologize for the previous misunderstanding. Seeing his sincere attitude, Zhu Ming's words softened, and she forgave his unintentional mistake. To punish him, she made Hu Han take her to a nearby shooting club to experience it. After the two played for a while, Zhu Ming went to the seaside park to find Lin Air. Seeing her friend's face looking radiant like a spring breeze, Lin Air guessed she had just gone on a date with Hu Han. Zhu Ming confided that she used to view Lin Air and Ju's love story as a fairy tale, not expecting things to change so fast, but luckily Hu Han seemed like a reliable person. Ju prepared very thoroughly for the class reunion, even tearing up the photo taken with Lin Air to prepare for a new life. When arriving at the Royal Hotel, several female classmates saw Ju and surrounded him asking about daily life in England, letting him enjoy the feeling of being admired again. Zhu Ming dressed very glamorously. Hu Han saw it and felt it was a bit inappropriate but didn't say anything. Two female classmates went into the restroom and gossiped that Zhu Ming was dressing to show off. If her family didn't have money, how could she afford luxury hobbies like art exhibitions? Hu Han happened to walk by, threw a ball of tissue paper down, and mocked them as trash. When it was time to eat, Lin Air suddenly walked in, carrying a branded bag, immediately attracting everyone's gaze. Someone whispered again that Lin Air had hooked up with a sugar daddy, so she dumped Ju. Ju spoke up first, saying his 7 years of studying abroad had ended and his feelings for Lin Air had also come to an end. Whoever Lin Air chose, he sincerely wished her happiness. Someone else discussed that Ju had such perseverance, working part-time to pay tuition to change his destiny. Much better than the sugar baby type like Lin Air. Lin Air interrupted him, taking out a notice of expulsion for Ju and statements of the money she transferred to him. Unexpectedly, Ju had prepared beforehand. He took out a recording of a conversation showing he had just paid Lin Air 200,000, proving they didn't owe each other anything. Lin Air didn't expect Ju to be so cunning and momentarily didn't know what to do. Just then, Chung-in walked into the room, loudly questioning Ju about what his 3 years with her counted for. Gao Ming walked right behind her. Ju hurriedly explained to Chung-in, blaming everything on Lin Air for ruining his reputation. But when Chung-in asked why the bank card she gave him to treat his father's illness was in Lin Air's hands, Ju couldn't explain. It turned out Gao Ming had anticipated Ju would ask Chung-in for money, so he had given her an empty card early on, which Ju still didn't know. Unable to cling to Chung-in anymore, he had to put away the bank card and leave. Gao Ming invited everyone for a second round of food, still at the wonton shop Lin Air loved. The four of them drew lots to drink wine. When it was Lin Air's turn to speak the truth, she wished she could successfully time travel back. The four of them took turns saying their wishes. Gao Ming wished for his work to go smoothly. Zhu Ming teased that he should wish to find a girlfriend soon. But Gao Ming whispered that he already had one. When Zhu Ming tried to press him, he said no more questions. Both Hu Han and Zhu Ming wished to find love soon. The two looked into each other's eyes, realizing their wish had come true right at this moment. There was a karaoke bar nearby. Zhu Ming really liked singing and had dreamed of being a singer since school days. Lin Air dragged her onto the stage, begging her to sing a few lines. While Zhu Ming was singing, Down in the audience, a man claiming to be a music producer noticed Huhan couldn't take his eyes off the stage. So he handed Huhan a business card and asked him to give it to Zhu Ming. Lin Er saw this and realized this was the turning point in Zhu Ming's life. So she told Huhan he absolutely had to give her this card. Lin Er took Gao Ming home. On the way, she thanked Gao Ming for helping solve the trouble caused by Zhu. Gao Ming said he also had his own motives. Lin Er saw the pager display the favorability level increasing and felt even happier inside. Meanwhile, Zhu Ming and Huhan visited their old school together. Both sided the changes time had brought, like how their two best friends for back then, Lin Er and Zhu, had gone their separate ways. Huhan said everything would change, but Zhu Ming added that her feelings for him would never change. She recalled a time in college when she went to school to find him, but his dad was suddenly hospitalized, so he didn't have time to explain. She had sulked for days, and after many years, she still felt guilty whenever she thought back on it. Gao Ming and Lin Er went to work together, passing by a seesaw in the park. They sat on opposite sides, but because Gao Ming was heavier, the seesaw tilted all the way down, causing Lin Er to slide straight toward him. The two faced each other, looking at each other for a long time before feeling less awkward. Afterward, Lin Er went home, and since Gao Ming was free, he followed her to hang out at her house. Mr. Lin Zheng saw Gao Ming was very enthusiastic, so he put all the sweet and sour pork ribs he intended to cook for his two daughters in a Gao Ming's bowl. Lin Er quickly picked them all back. When seeing Gao Ming to the door, she asked if he was satisfied with her family's meal. Gao Ming replied that the whole family sitting together to eat was a luxury for him. The favorability level continued to rise. That evening, Lin Er worked overtime to prepare a plan. Luo Er recounted that a few days ago, Zhu came to the house looking for her, asking her to arrange a meeting with Lin Er. Luo Er felt Zhu had bad intentions, so she hid it and didn't say anything. Lin Er reminded her sister to stay away from Zhu in the future, while Luo Er advised her to hold on tight to Gao Ming. In the following time, the two worked together, everything progressed smoothly, and they even completed tasks earlier than expected after negotiating with other partners. With 2 days left, they walked around the Jiangnan Old Town together. They passed by a flower shop that had a shared flower planting service for couples. The two pretended to be lovers. Lin Er suggested planting roses, but Gao Ming preferred sunflowers. After that, they intended to visit a library, but because they arrived a few minutes late, the library was closed. Gao Ming thought just looking at the surrounding trees was good enough, but Lin Er still felt regretful, blaming herself for not preparing thoroughly. Gao Ming noticed Lin Er was always in a rush, both in work and life. He liked living slower. Sometimes wasting time was also a joy. Speaking of wasting time, Lin Er suggested going fishing. Gao Ming was afraid of water, but still went with Lin Er to the lakeside. Unable to catch a big fish for a long time, Lin Er sat on the bank and started nodding off. Seeing that, Gao Ming immediately scooted closer, letting Lin Er lean her head on his shoulder. Lin Er took a nap by the lake. When she woke up and saw she was leaning on Gao Ming's shoulder, she felt shy and hurriedly asked if he caught any fish. Gao Ming said no, and Lin Er started getting impatient again. She ran to the vendor to borrow a net, threw it into the lake, and scooped up a fish. Dinner was secured. She intended to ask the chef to prepare it, but Gao Ming said he could do it himself. They found camping gear and built a fire to cook fish soup. Lin Er wondered how a rich kid like Gao Ming knew how to cook. He explained that his parents were busy since he was small, so he learned to take care of himself early on. After drinking the fish soup, Lin Er wanted to see photos. They took out a computer and used a memory card to transfer photos. The transfer speed was very slow. Lin Er said cameras would be obsolete sooner or later, and phones would replace them in the future. Gao Ming heard there was a company researching smartphones, and the two discussed future technology together. Lin Er said if you stood in 2025 looking back at everything now, it would seem ridiculous. Gao Ming felt Lin Er seemed to have the ability to predict the future. Lin Er hurriedly explained she was just guessing wildly. While transferring data, Luo Zhou called Gao Ming. Gao Ming secretly went into the room. He had prepared many cardboard boxes filled with flowers and balloons. Gao Ming asked Luo Zhou to make a model beforehand, but Luo Zhou misunderstood, making him annoyed for a long while. Finally, Lin Er saw the photos and realized Gao Ming intentionally chose the ones with both of them together, guessing he had an increasingly good impression of her. She walked out of the room, saw Gao Ming had decorated with flowers and balloons, and secretly rejoiced inside. Gao Ming pulled her close, held her hand intending to confess, when suddenly the lights short-circuited. Luckily, the night sky was clear. Gao Ming looked at Lin Er again, when suddenly fireworks lit up. Next was a couple proposing, and everyone around cheered loudly. Luo Zhou called, announcing the company arranged for Gao Ming to go on a business trip to Paris the next day, so he had to go home that very night. Gao Ming took Lin Air home. On the way, the car radio played the song Love Really Needs Courage. Lin Air hurriedly turned it off, saying she was sleepy and didn't want to hear music. Arriving downstairs at Lin Air's place, Gao Ming still lingered, not wanting to leave. Lin Air told him to go home and rest early. When she went upstairs, the pager signaled the favorability level rising nonstop. Lin Air was wondering why, when Gao Ming was suddenly standing behind her. Gao Ming said he had prepared a lot for today's confession, but somehow every step malfunctioned. The short circuit, the gas tank got confiscated by the janitor. Even so, he couldn't hold back the words in his heart, saying he really liked Lin Air. Saying that, he leaned down to kiss her. Lin Air enjoyed it too, but then suddenly pushed Gao Ming away. Returning home, Lin Air was very conflicted. She knew establishing a romantic relationship early meant she could return early, but now she didn't want to leave Gao Ming at all, and would even rather let the favorability level rise slowly. The next day, Lin Air met Zhu Meng for a meal, looking gloomy and tired. Lin Air claimed she had an incurable terminal illness. Zhu Meng didn't understand, telling her that the female lead in her comic, after time traveling and meeting true love, decided to stay in that era. Lin Air thought that was absurd, unable to throw away family and career in real life. Zhu Meng reminded her it was just a comic. Lin Air calmed down, advising Zhu Meng not to be with Huan. Knowing Zhu Meng wouldn't listen, she had to use a reveal the future opportunity. Time turned back, but Zhu Meng remained steadfast. Lin Air realized she should wish her best friend happiness. To avoid Gao Ming, Lin Air went to the marketing counter every day. After work, Gao Ming intentionally came to the counter to invite Lin Air to eat. Lin Air made an excuse that she had to inventory the goods and didn't feel safe asking someone else to do it. Gao Ming left in disappointment. Lin Air thought to herself, hoping Gao Ming could understand that she didn't want the relationship to progress too fast. Gao Ming thought about how to win Lin Air's heart. He went online to search for pickup artist tips. Luo Zhou saw Gao Ming was deeply in love and couldn't get out. But regrettably, he wasn't Lin Air's family, so he couldn't help. Mentioning family, Gao Ming suddenly had an idea. He would start with Lin Air's family. Mr. Lin Zheng wanted to transfer Luo Air's school. Gao Ming quickly searched for information on a few private schools. When Lin Air was getting ready for work, Gao Ming came right to her building, saying he would go with her to look at schools. Luo Air insisted on deciding immediately. Lin Air had to ask for time off. Regarding school requirements, Luo Air wished there were lots of snacks nearby. Lin Air also supported this. There were fried foods sold in front of the school gate. The two sisters each ordered 2 skewers. Gao Ming thought it wasn't healthy. Lin Air realized Gao Ming didn't have a childhood, so she invited him to experience it again together. The 3 of them bought all kinds of snacks. Gao Ming also stopped caring about health issues and ate deliciously with the 2 sisters. While resting on the road, Luo Air suggested Lin Air read more romance novels because the relationship between the 2 of them was progressing too slowly. The next day at work, Lin Air deliberately avoided Gao Ming. Gao Ming called her into the office, asking if she disliked the company because he was there. Lin Air immediately answered no, but didn't know how to explain it clearly. In the afternoon, she saw Gao Ming's office was empty, asking Luo Zhou. She learned he suddenly had a fever and had no one to take care of him at home. Luo Zhou was about to bring documents over, so Lin Air offered to go along. Getting close to the villa, Luo Zhou texted Gao Ming. Gao Ming immediately lay on the bed pretending to be sick. When Lin Air entered, Gao Ming said the helper was temporarily busy. When taking his temperature, Lin Air went to the living room to look at the fighter jet models. Gao Ming intentionally stalled for time, making her find the differences between the models. Estimating enough time had passed, Lin Air checked the thermometer and saw the temperature had been heated up by Gao Ming to 42 degrees. Lin Air hurriedly took Gao Ming to the hospital. On the way, she took his temperature again and saw it was completely normal. Lin Air finally realized Gao Ming was faking his illness. When she prepared to go home, the car engine broke down. Gao Ming got out to fix it, taking off his jacket to drape over Lin Air. As a result, when they got home, he actually had a fever. Lin Air intended to go home, but since the nanny hadn't returned, she had to stay to continue taking care of Gao Ming. After fussing around for a while, both felt hungry. Lin Air went into the kitchen to cook, but wasn't good at stir-frying. Cooking porridge would take too long. She suddenly remembered the lazy pot dish trending online, so she found a few ingredients to make braised spaghetti. Gao Ming ate a dish with such a strange flavor for the first time. By evening, Gao Ming still refused to let Lin Air go home. Lin Air was also afraid he would have a high fever at night, so she accepted staying over. But she called Zhu Meng to let her know. Zhu Meng was drinking coffee with Huan. She had signed up for a choir competition, but still felt nervous. Guhan encouraged her that Meng Meng had a good voice and was beautiful, so she would definitely win a high prize. While listening to the phone, Meng Meng accidentally dropped her wallet. Guhan bent down to pick it up for her, discovering it was the birthday gift he gave her in 11th grade. Meng Meng said it was the gift she cherished most. Gao Ming lay alone in his room, texting asking Lin Er to help him take medicine, even though Lin Er had already left medicine and hot water by the bedside. The pager sent a mission. Within 3 minutes, she had to forcibly pin Gao Ming against the wall. Lin Er found it confusing, but she only had one-time reversal chance left, so she couldn't give up easily. Lin Er ran to Gao Ming's bedside, suggesting he should get out of bed and walk around a bit. Gao Ming said his whole body was tired and didn't want to get up. Lin Er listed all sorts of benefits of exercising and pulled him up no matter what. Taking advantage of when he wasn't standing steadily, she pulled him toward her. Gao Ming braced his hands against the wall, considered as reluctantly completing the mission. Lin Er immediately left the bedroom. Guhan took Zhu Ming home. He finally worked up the courage to ask if she was free tomorrow, and Meng Meng agreed immediately. That night, Lin Er stayed at Gao Ming's villa. Suddenly, she heard footsteps outside the door. Scared, she ran straight into Gao Ming's room. Lin Er woke Gao Ming up. The two of them tiptoed out to the living room and discovered Aunt Fong getting close. It turned out that because Gao Ming had deliberately fired Aunt Fong and Uncle Lu, she had to sneak back into the house in the middle of the night to get her things. Lin Er invited Aunt Fong to stay and take care of Gao Ming. Gao Ming kept winking to signal her not to. Aunt Fong made an excuse that she was busy at home. Lin Er thought Aunt Fong and Uncle Lu were husband and wife, so she told her to just let Uncle Lu handle things. Gao Ming, afraid his lie would be exposed, coughed loudly to remind her. Aunt Fong then said she had to go back because she was worried Uncle Lu wouldn't do a good job. Aunt Fong's awkward expressions made Lin Er realize Gao Ming was lying. Gao Ming said he felt dizzy again. Lin Er touched his forehead and found it was indeed burning hot. Gao Ming went back to bed, holding Lin Er's hand and not letting her leave. So Lin Er had to sleep next to Gao Ming for the night. Early the next morning, Gao Ming woke up and saw Lin Er lying next to him, feeling very happy inside. Then Lin Er woke up, and Gao Ming pretended to be asleep again. Aunt Fong had prepared breakfast. Lin Er brought it to Gao Ming's bedside and then gently left the room. After breakfast, the pager gave out a new mission. Within 10 minutes, she must undress Gao Ming. Lin Er felt the missions were getting weirder and weirder, but she couldn't argue. Seeing the clock start counting down, Lin Er had to run back into Gao Ming's bedroom. Lin Er reached out toward Gao Ming's neck, but Gao Ming suddenly opened his eyes, scaring Lin Er into pulling her hand back. She tried bringing water, pretending to spill it on him, but Gao Ming steadily caught the cup. She told Gao Ming to change his clothes so she could wash them, but he seemed unaccustomed to it, and after a few tries, he didn't do it. While Gao Ming was taking a shower, Lin Er suddenly had an idea to cheat. The system didn't specify she had to tear the clothes he was wearing, so she found a shirt to change into and tore it apart. The system immediately issued a warning. No cheating, otherwise Gao Ming will be punished with a high fever for 3 days. Lin Er had to continue. She sneaked up close to Gao Ming while he was sleeping and reached out to undo a button. Just as she was preparing to get off the bed, she was suddenly pulled back by Gao Ming. Gao Ming kissed Lin Er passionately. Lin Er thought the time hadn't come yet, so she struggled a bit and then hurriedly ran out of the room. By early morning, Gao Ming's fever was completely gone. He made breakfast and called Lin Er to get up, but the living room was empty. Lin Er had already rushed to the company. Zhu Meng called, curiously asking about the 2 days of single man and a single woman living together. Lin Er hurriedly went to work, telling Meng Meng not to get the wrong idea. Guhan also took Meng Meng back to the singing school, taking advantage of the school being empty during spring break, so both could focus on preparing for the competition. At work, Lin Er started avoiding Gao Ming. When she went into the break room to get water, Gao Ming suddenly appeared behind her, spreading his arms to hug her. While waiting for the tea to brew for about 5 or 6 minutes, Gao Ming stayed in that position. Lin Er saw 2 colleagues passing by and was so tense she didn't know what to do. Warning Gao Ming to behave in public, Gao Ming smiled and finally let her go. Because of the cold weather, Zhu Ming caught a cold right before going home. Guhan rarely took time off, but he took leave to take Meng Meng home and care for her. He guessed she was hungry, so he ran into the kitchen to cook. Meng Meng leaned against the doorframe watching him, suddenly feeling happy. She remembered the funny stories from high school. Guhan said Meng Meng was always radiant, and she would definitely get good results in the upcoming singing contest. Luo Zhou helped Gao Ming reserve a private restaurant. After work, he informed Lin Er to arrive early for a date. Lin Er said she had to work overtime today, Luo Zhou advised her to cherish this opportunity, because so many people secretly loved Gao Ming but couldn't have him. Lin Air honestly said she just wished Gao Ming would like her a little less. The next day at work, Lin Air became the topic of whispering gossip in the whole company. Chao Shan called, saying Lin Air wasn't qualified to date Gao Ming because she couldn't support his career, and the sales situation of the new sanitary pad product wasn't looking optimistic. Lin Air explained that it takes time for a new product to capture the market, but she still wanted to find a solution as soon as possible. Hu Han took Zhu Ming to the shooting range and handed her a gun. Zhu Ming took it, her fingers fumbling, not knowing how to hold the gun correctly. She took a deep breath, pulled the trigger, and the bullet flew out but missed the bullseye by a mile. She fired several shots in a row, all with bad results. Looking at the target, Zhu Ming sighed helplessly, her eyes showing clear discouragement. Seeing that, Hu Han stepped forward and patted her shoulder, advising her to just focus and try a few more times. He said to think of it like singing, forget everything around her, and just focus all her attention on the target in front of her. Zhu Ming nodded slightly, adjusted her posture, and held the gun firmly. This time, she tried to calm herself down, thinking only of the center of the target. When she pulled the trigger, the bullet hit close to the bullseye. The more she shot, the more she got into the zone, and the results gradually improved. During the break, Hu Han and Zhu Ming sat to the side. Hu Han looked at Zhu Ming, encouraging her to overcome her fear of the singing contest, just like how she overcame the difficulty in shooting practice. He said her voice was very good. She just needed to perform normally and she would definitely succeed. Hearing Hu Han's words, Zhu Ming felt warm inside. She looked around and saw all her friends cheering for her. Her gaze gradually became determined, deciding to focus and give a try. She remembered Hu Han's help all this time, so she asked about his dream. Hu Han's eyes looked a bit sad. He recounted that he was influenced by his father and always wanted to be a criminal police officer. But after his father sacrificed his life while on duty, it was a huge blow to him. Although he gradually overcame the fear, for his mother's sake, he didn't dare pursue that dream anymore. Litao's new product finally started selling. The method Lin Air came up with was to have Gao Ming personally model for the sanitary pads in a magazine. Chao Shan saw the magazine and immediately ran to the company in a rage. He hated this method because it damaged the male image, his face full of indignation. Lin Air argued back firmly, her eyes determined and confident, causing the favorability score to skyrocket. Director Li stood by advising Chao Shan to put aside his prejudice because the sales figures said it all. Just then, Lin Zheng called to report that Lin Air's sister was suddenly missing. Hearing that, Gao Ming immediately dragged Lin Air out of the company. Chao Shan watched their backs. Becoming even more angry, Gao Ming and Lin Air went all around the area asking for news about the sister. Lin Air suddenly remembered that her sister once mentioned Ju had invited the little girl to the park south of the city. She thought her sister usually didn't run around wildly, so she must have gone there. They found the sister's school bag by the lake, and Lin Air became more certain of her guess. There was a secluded warehouse nearby. They tiptoed upstairs, and as soon as they got close, they heard Ju's voice. Lin Air stepped forward, seeing Ju with a ferocious face. And her heart tightened. Ju blamed Lin Air for ruining his good thing. He could have smoothly married into the Chung family, but now everything was shattered. Meanwhile, Lin Air was hooking up with a rich man, living a carefree life. He demanded Lin Air transfer him a sum of money, screaming as he spoke. Gao Ming stepped out from the shadows behind Ju, and while he wasn't paying attention, delivered a blow that knocked him down. Both of them hurriedly untied the sister. Ju then stood up, grabbing a chair, intending to throw it at Lin Air. Seeing that, Gao Ming quickly shielded Lin Air. The chair smashed hard onto his shoulder and neck. He suppressed the pain, using his hand to push Ju back down. Immediately after, the police arrived and took Ju away. Gao Ming suffered a soft tissue injury to his shoulder and neck and had to be hospitalized. Lin Air looked at his injury, her heart aching. She thought it was the system causing trouble again, running out of the hospital room alone to complain for a while, even wishing the favorability score would rise slower. The system notified her that everyone was just a paper character, and for her, this was just a dream. Seeing that Gao Ming was okay, Lin Air went home to take care of her sister. Before leaving, she accidentally left the pager at the hospital. Arriving home, seeing her sister was fast asleep, she went over to Zhu Ming's house. Zhu Ming's serialized comic was about to end. She excitedly said she would let the two main characters have a passionate romance. Lin Air remained pensive, thinking there would always be many regrets. The next day, Gao Ming held the pager and studied it for a while, but didn't know where to start. Luo Zhou came to the hospital to pick Gao Ming up for discharge. Gao Ming asked Luo Zhou why Lin Air clearly liked him but refused to admit it. Just then, Lin Air hurriedly ran to the hospital room. Seeing Gao Ming holding the pager, she quickly snatched it back. The system showed the favorability score had reached 95%. The mission was about to be completed. Gao Ming insisted on being discharged to work temporarily from home. Luo Zhou said he had a lot of work to do, telling Lin Air to bring documents to Gao Ming every day. Lin Air worried the progress was too fast, making an excuse that she also had unfinished work. Arriving at Gao Ming's house, Luo Zhou drove straight off. Lin Air helped Gao Ming back to his room. When the two worked together, Lin Air discovered Gao Ming's daily workload was astonishing. When it was time to change his dressing, Lin Air helped Gao Ming apply the medicine. Gao Ming took the opportunity to pull her into his arms, asking why she didn't dare to express her feelings. Lin Air stuttered, momentarily not knowing how to explain. At the same time, Zhu Ming was waiting backstage for the qualifying round. She was so nervous her palms were sweating, her fingers unconsciously clutching the corner of her shirt. Hu Han sent a text encouraging her to relax, saying that just stepping onto the stage was already a success. Zhu Ming looked at the phone screen, took a deep breath, and kept encouraging herself. Soon, it was her turn to go on stage, and she took steady steps forward. Zhu Ming stood at the edge of the stage, her hands unconsciously gripping the hem of her shirt, a feeling of nervousness rising like a tidal wave inside her. But Hu Han's words kept echoing in her head nonstop. She took a deep breath, tried to calm herself down, and then stepped onto the stage with determination. At this moment, she had no other lingering thoughts. She poured her heart and soul into the performance and finally passed the selection round smoothly. General Manager Li hurriedly went to Gao Ming's office, stating his purpose with a serious look on his face. It turned out that Lu Tao's sales figures were very impressive, and Bai Li Company intended to inject capital for investment. Gao Ming frowned slightly. He had heard that Bai Li Company was a foreign enterprise for a long time, so deep down, he didn't want the control of Lu Tao to fall into someone else's hands. Seeing that, General Manager Li patiently explained that Lu Tao was the shared life's work of many people, hoping Gao Ming could consider it more carefully. Mei Ji, Gao Ming's mother, sat by the hospital bed, tapping her fingers lightly on her phone, sending a text message to Lin Air. She said that she wasn't feeling well and had to be hospitalized after returning to the country, but she hadn't told Gao Ming yet, and she wanted to meet Lin Air privately. Lin Air saw the message, her expression tense, and she immediately grabbed her handbag and hurriedly left the company. Gao Ming noticed Lin Air acting strangely and quietly followed her. Arriving at the hospital, Meiji looked at Lin Air with a complex gaze, slowly recounting an old story from when she was young, about how she once held Gao Ming and jumped into the sea because of family reasons. Over the years, this incident had always been like a heavy rock weighing on her heart, making her feel guilty. She hoped Lin Air could replace her and bring Gao Ming more happiness. Just then, Gao Ming suddenly burst into the hospital room, looking both worried and dissatisfied, asking Meiji why she didn't tell him. Meiji smiled and explained that the diagnosis results weren't out yet, and besides, she only felt uncomfortable occasionally, so it probably wasn't anything serious. Gao Ming looked at his mother with eyes full of sorrow. He said that he had grown up and hoped his mother could pursue her ideal life, and didn't need to endure for the family anymore. Returning to Zhu Meng's house, Lin Air sat on the sofa, her eyes a bit dreamy, pondering a question. If there is no proposal, would she not have to leave Gao Ming? Suddenly, the pager beeped, showing the deadline was the millennium. If the mission wasn't completed, the world Gao Ming lived in would collapse. Lin Air's face changed color, and she immediately arranged to meet Gao Ming. After meeting, she sadly rushed into Gao Ming's arms, her voice trembling as she said she wanted to go through many things with him. Gao Ming gently patted her back. Even though he didn't know about the system, he firmly believed that the two of them would experience everything together in the future. The next day, the diagnosis results came out. It was just a benign tumor. Meiji knew that Gao Ming and Lin Air had confirmed their romantic relationship, and a happy smile blossomed on her face. After Lin Air went to the hospital to deliver food, the two of them went to the company together. To avoid colleagues gossiping, Lin Air intentionally parked in the garage and let Gao Ming go upstairs first. During work hours, Lin Air intentionally avoided Gao Ming, and when sitting at her desk, she tried to hunch her body toward the computer screen. On the contrary, Gao Ming acted very publicly. When handing over the keys, he intentionally emphasized that the two of them were going home together, and he even went to the break room specifically to pour tea for Lin Air. The colleagues saw their actions and all understood, realizing that their relationship was not simple at all. Chao Shan found out his wife was hospitalized and hurriedly went to the hospital to visit. Meiji looked at him, her eyes calm but determined, and unexpectedly suggested a divorce. She expressed that for many years they had no feelings left, and this illness made her realize that she should live the rest of her life for herself. Ever since confirming their relationship, Lin Air worked even more passionately. She wanted to help Gao Ming accomplish more things within the limited time. Gao Ming watched Lin Air's busy figure but didn't understand her thoughts. Lin Air looked at Gao Ming with full enthusiasm, and an urge rose in her heart, asking him to propose to her on New Year's Eve. Gao Ming was a bit stunned, feeling it was a little sudden. Lin Air immediately mentioned the legend of the world ending at the millennium, hoping the two of them wouldn't leave any regrets. Zhu Ming started participating in intensive training. Because of her excellent performance, she was often envied by a few other trainees who sometimes intentionally caused trouble. But Zhu Ming wasn't affected. She put even more effort into practicing. Ending the first stage of training, she was rated as excellent. She called Hu Han in an emotional state, and hearing his familiar voice, she couldn't hold back her tears. Hu Han on the other end of the line comforted her, telling her to persist with her dream. Zhu Ming wiped her tears dry, her inner self becoming stronger, and she increased the intensity of her training every day. Hu Han didn't sit still either. He mobilized every colleague to use their phones to vote for Zhu Ming. Gao Ming's mother went to recuperate on the coast of Sweden, and his father went along to take care of her. Who would have thought that, after the divorce, their relationship would actually get better? His mother even sent seashells back for Lin Air. Hearing the story, Lin Air smiled because his mother had been able to let go. She asked about Gao Ming. He said he wanted to live a bit more freely and experience things he had never tried before. Lin Air asked him what he wanted to try. When he said he hadn't thought of it yet, she said she would take him to try something that he surely hadn't done before. And then she took him to a roller skating rink. Lin Air said it had been a long time since she played, but she would lead him, telling him to just follow slowly behind. Who would have thought that as soon as she stood up, she would fall? She covered her embarrassment by saying she hadn't played in a long time, so she needed to get used to it again, adding that this was a hot game of the Millennium era, so she definitely had to be able to skate. Gao Ming said it would be better if he let her. Lin Air was still afraid of falling, but unexpectedly, Gao Ming knew how to skate. He said he just needed to watch others and then follow along. Lin Air still argued that couple skating was harder. Then the two held hands tightly and skated. Lin Air fell forward, making Gao Ming smile and praise her for skating really well. A while later, Gao Ming was already able to skate backward. It was so cool. On the drive back, both of them kept giggling nonstop. Luo Zhou called, and Gao Ming turned on the speakerphone. The thing was, he had booked 2 rooms, but now there was only 1 room left because the other one had a water leak. Gao Ming said it was fine, 1 room was okay too, and then they smiled shyly at each other. Then they went into the room together and exchanged gentle kisses. Hu Han went to a grocery store as soon as his shift ended to watch the final round of Zhu Ming's competition. Zhu Ming sang with a clear, adorable voice, and the lyrics told a story about a secret love for a friend. Hu Han listened and smiled with satisfaction. The MC suggested Zhu Ming say a few words to the audience. She said that the competition result wasn't as important as being able to stand there. She wanted to thank a person who gave her courage, and she also took the opportunity to confess her feelings to Hu Han. Hu Han could only hear bits and pieces because the signal was choppy, but just hearing that much. He hurriedly ran to find a phone to call Zhu Ming, confessing right on live TV that he had also liked her for a very long time. He said that he always thought he wasn't worthy, so he hid his feelings, selfishly pushing her away, and every time he did that, he was in great pain. He apologized for being cowardly in love and asked if she could give him another chance. Zhu Ming, with tears in her eyes, said that the whole country had heard it. So could this be considered as promise? It seemed as if both were looking at each other through the TV screen. Finally, Hu Han admitted it too. When he arrived to pick Zhu Ming up, there were also cake and flowers waiting. All 4 of them went to drink beer on the sidewalk together, congratulating Zhu Ming on winning the championship. Gao Ming was also happy for them that they had finally become a couple. It was New Year's Eve. Lin Air looked very sad while everyone else was happily looking forward to a promising future. They urged Lin Air, who could predict the future, to say something. She only gently replied that flying cars might not have appeared yet, but the stories and people bonded together were irreplaceable, just like them right now. After that, the whole group clinked glasses to celebrate. As the countdown began, Gao Ming suggested taking a selfie to save the memory. He set the camera and asked Lin Air to turn around and check it, but when she turned, he was kneeling with a ring in his hand, unexpectedly proposing to her amidst everyone's excited cheering. Gao Ming sincerely asked if she would agree to step into the new millennium with him. However, facing that proposal, Lin Air just looked at him with eyes full of extreme pain. As everyone started counting down, a truck suddenly rushed in. Gao Ming immediately rushed out to push Lin Air away from danger and got thrown by the vehicle. Too shocked and desperate, Lin Air screamed that this world and everyone were just fake, just characters, and she actually came from 2025. She didn't want Gao Ming to lose his life. But this was also her last reveal, causing the most terrible punishment to be officially activated. After opening her eyes again, Lin Air discovered the truck had disappeared. The scene only had 3 people left and absolutely no Gao Ming. When she panicked and asked about him, both Zhu Ming and Hu Han looked clueless, not understanding why Lin Air knew a person named Gao Ming. Looking around the party table, Lin Air felt it was even more abnormal as the new year had passed, but the party seemed to only have the 3 of them left, as if anything related to Gao Ming had never existed. Right at that moment, the system appeared and announced this was the cruelest punishment. The entire memory between Gao Ming and Lin Air would be erased, and Gao Ming would forget everything related to her. That harsh truth made Lin Air almost collapse. Returning home, Lin Air sat alone on the steps, crying in despair. Her sister happened to pass by, saw her sad, and asked if she just went to the New Year countdown and argued with her boyfriend. When Lin Air asked if she knew who Gao Ming was, her sister just asked in surprise if that was her new boyfriend. Even her sister had forgotten his existence, making Lin Air's pain even deeper. With tears in her eyes, she accepted the candy her sister gave to comfort her, while the pager device completely stopped working. Helpless and resentful, Lin Air could only scream angrily at the system, blaming it for being too cruel, coldly erasing everything and no longer caring about her feelings. Ironically, at the company, not a single NPC recognized her. Luo Zhou asked what she was doing there, saying her desk was downstairs, not on this floor. This meant the memory of her working here had also disappeared. Gao Ming walked past her like a stranger, remembering nothing. Lin Air finally understood this was the punishment for her. She asked herself if she continued to stay here, would he be able to remember her? Lin Air lifted her spirits, determined to make Gao Ming love her once again. Hu Han was only slightly injured while assisting the police investigation, yet Zhu Ming ran over in a panic, both worried and blaming him, saying his body now belonged to her, and he wasn't allowed to scare her like that. She cared for her and loved him so much she couldn't hide her franticness. Hu Han gently reassured her, promising to be more careful in the future and not let himself get hurt again. That night, he also explained that he only helped with the investigation a little bit and definitely wouldn't transfer permanently to the investigation team because his mother was still here, and getting into that team was inherently extremely difficult. Hearing that, Zhu Ming sadly asked herself if she was too selfish. Before, Hu Han always wholeheartedly supported all her choices and dreams, but now it seemed she had become the one blocking his path. She asked him if he was truly happy. Hu Han held her hand tightly, affirming that just having Zhu Ming by his side made him happy. Those words touched Zhu Ming. She promised that from now on she would support all his dreams, as long as he knew how to take care of himself. The two hugged each other in understanding and love. Meanwhile, Lin Air still hadn't given up on Gao Ming. She tried to approach him through work, but failed, so she finally had to quietly follow him to a model airplane shop. Encouraging herself, she gathered all her courage to strike up a conversation, saying she wanted to buy a model airplane to give to a friend who had forgotten her. She asked Gao Ming to help assemble a model with a Y2K meaning, believing that through it, that person would be able to remember her. After a moment of hesitation, Gao Ming finally agreed to help her. Not long after, rumors spread in the market that Lu Tao's new product had serious quality issues. Employees gossiped excitedly, thinking that this time Gao Ming couldn't avoid big trouble and was even at risk of being fired. Hearing those words, Lin Air couldn't help but be stunned and worried. In reality, products were being returned and recalled in large quantities, and negative news was spreading wider, making the situation extremely tense. In the company, Luo Zhou appeared restless and pressured, but contrary to the panicked atmosphere around him, Gao Ming still maintained his calm. He immediately demanded that departments not be chaotic and must review and strictly check quality at every production stage. When Luo Zhou reported that the board of directors had summoned them and asked if Ali would step up to help, because after all, he was a member of the board, Gao Ming just asked back if Luo Zhou had guessed who was the person who introduced the new member to the board. The truth gradually became clear. It turned out all the troubles this time were secretly manipulated by Ali from behind. In the meeting, although many people suggested pausing the export of the new product line, Gao Ming still firmly decided to continue, arguing that stopping the upgrade now would create an opportunity for competitors to take advantage. Later, Dr. Wei showed Lin Air a report discovering over a dozen substandard products, which were all samples she had collected herself, showing that someone intentionally interfered. Lin Air decided to investigate the source of the incident herself. During the secret surveillance process, she discovered a delivery truck sneaking into the warehouse to swap products. But while taking photos as evidence, she was discovered and attacked. Just at the critical moment, Gao Ming and the police appeared in time to rescue her. Afterward, Gao Ming called Ali to report that the fake warehouse had been discovered. Although he was praised, he frankly criticized the call for foreign capital investment and unethical business practices, considering it irresponsible behavior toward consumers. Ali's assistant was also escorted to the police station by Luo Zhou. Lin Air actively cooperated with the investigation to the point that Gao Ming had to personally take her home. On the way, Lin Air suggested that Lu Tao compensate small suppliers who were tricked into exchanging real goods for fake ones. But Gao Ming said he had already directed this to be done earlier. The two understood each other. When Gao Ming asked how to resolve consumer prejudice, Lin Air proposed combining online and offline promotion using female influencers, while emphasizing that improving product quality is the core. Gao Ming smiled and invited her to attend the meeting the next day. Ali came to admit he had lost, but Gao Ming affirmed he didn't lose to an opponent, but lost to his own unacceptable wrongdoings. Even if the company overlooked it, it was still wrong. Ali said he would take responsibility himself, just not wanting Lu Tao to take risks, because it was the life's work he built with his father. Gao Ming understood that, but believed times had changed. Ali worried that changing direction might fail. Even with patents and good quality, customers change easily. Facing those concerns, Gao Ming presented the next plan, deciding to announce the patents and accept the risk to push Lu Tao to leave the industry. Finally, Ali admitted Gao Ming had far surpassed his generation, and Gao Ming affirmed that Lu Tao would always wait for Ali to return in the future. Lin Air worked beside Gao Ming, understanding him so well that he only needed to turn around, and she had a notebook and pen ready, surprising him. She proactively contacted all departments, made the exact type of coffee he liked, quietly taking care of him with professionalism and subtlety. In the evening, Lin Air bought dumplings from the shop they used to eat at together, and even promised to go back together when free. She advised him to taste them, saying maybe the flavor had changed, making Gao Ming eat while looking at her thoughtfully. When he saw Lin Air take out the yarn doll at her desk, Gao Ming felt something was even more off, so he even followed her downstairs and offered to take her home. Hu Han learned to cook Western food for Zhu Ming, moving her so much that everything felt like a dream. He said that from now on, as long as Zhu Ming liked it, he was ready to do anything. The two went on a sweet and adorable date. Hu Han held Zhu Ming's hand and confessed that he had submitted an application to return to investigative work, which he had given up for his mother. But thanks to the words Zhu Ming said earlier, he realized he shouldn't lose his dream. Although momentarily surprised, Zhu Ming was fully supportive because she understood the happiness of pursuing a passion. She only asked him to promise to protect himself and not get hurt, making Hu Han extremely happy. Lin Air returned home, opened a radio program again, and found the day Gao Ming had called to request a song. In his drunken state, he asked to dedicate a song to the bad girl who took his heart but wouldn't give it back, expressing the sadness, helplessness, jealousy, and sincere feelings he had never dared to say in front of her. Hearing those words, Lin Air burst into tears, heartbroken because she understood everything too late, to the point her sister had to come in and ask, but she didn't know anything because it was a secret only Lin Air knew. At the same time, on his way home, Gao Ming accidentally listened to the radio and caught Lin Air's voice calling into the program. She requested a song for a friend who might also be listening, saying that she had heard everything he said, that they had shared many beautiful memories together, and even if he had forgotten everything, she would still be there waiting until he remembered. Finally, she requested the song Only Love One Word. Arriving home, Gao Ming kept thinking about the words Lin Air said today. He opened the cabinet and took out the yarn doll she had given him. It looked exactly like the matching doll to the one Lin Air had held today. Moreover, there was also a photo album from when the two of them traveled together. Gao Ming seemed to be looking at someone in the photo, but couldn't remember. Everything was so blurry that it made him frown. The next day, Gao Ming called Lin Air over to discuss the product upgrade plan. While she was reporting, he suddenly put the doll on the table and asked if she had a similar one, leaving Lin Air stunned. She hurriedly asked if he remembered anything yet, then ran to get the photo they took together while traveling to show him. But in Gao Ming's eyes, the photo was just scenery, even though the two were holding hands. Lin Air continued to ask about him buying 33 cans of canned air, but he just said he found it interesting and didn't remember anything at all. Disappointed, she intended to go back to work when he held her hand. She thought there was hope, but in the end, he just returned the photo, breaking her heart. Meanwhile, Zhu Ming and Hu Han were on a sweet date. Zhu Ming was worried seeing Lin Air sad since the new year, but her friend just said she was fine. Han remarked that Lin Er had become stronger after breaking up with Xiao Jia, then suddenly took Zhu Ming to the school, where he had prepared a romantic confession with banners, balloons, and late but sincere words of love. He led Zhu Ming to a large bouquet of roses, expressing regret for missing each other for so long, but happiness that they were finally together, then knelt down to propose. Zhu Ming shed tears, agreed to wear the ring, and the two exchanged a sweet kiss mixed with a bit of sadness. During a business trip out of town, Gao Ming and Lin Er returned to the place by the river where an unfinished confession had once taken place. Looking at the old scene, Lin Er sadly recalled the past, smiling and saying she had witnessed two couples confessing here, one successful, one missed due to an incident. Gao Ming surprisingly denied it, but Lin Er asked him what was more important among timing, opportunity, and ritual. To her, just having the opportunity was enough, because sometimes everything is ready but the timing isn't right. Gao Ming believed that if two people truly loved each other, even if they got lost, they would find their way back to each other. Hearing that, Lin Er was full of hope and asked him to go back. While he couldn't help but look back at the old spot, but denied it when she asked. Afterwards, Lin Er took him to the flower shop they had visited, but Gao Ming didn't remember at all. She asked him about the pot of sunflowers there, but he didn't recognize it either. The owner said she had never met them, and the flower pot was probably left behind by a customer. Lin Er immediately bought forget-me-nots and sat down to plant them. Gao Ming quietly watched by her side, vague images flashing in his mind as if his memory was about to return. She said she used to plant sunflowers with a very important person, symbolizing silent love, but back then she didn't understand that meaning. Seeing Lin Er's sadness, Gao Ming had even more flickering fragments of memory appear. Lin Er drank alone and burst into tears, screaming and scolding the pager, blaming it for making Gao Ming become dazed, forgetting everything even though she had taken him everywhere. Then she choked up, comforting herself that this was also good, because if the feelings didn't increase, she could stay in this world, quietly watching him from afar. However, right after that, Lin Er burst out crying again, resentfully complaining that having to chase him once wasn't enough. Now she was forced to chase him again, when he was originally so hard to approach. When she opened her eyes and saw Gao Ming sitting opposite, Lin Er was startled and hiccuped, thinking it was just an hallucination and shooed him away. But Gao Ming stopped her from drinking more, making her cry even more, blaming him for interfering in her life while saying he had forgotten everything, so he had no right to intervene. She cried pitifully, swatting his hand away when he wiped her tears and forced him to sit down and drink with her if he wouldn't leave. Reluctantly, Gao Ming sat back down. When he asked why she was crying, Lin Er irritably admitted she was a weak person, then blamed him for how he had forgotten her. She said she had to wait to sober up before taking him somewhere, then burst into sobs again. Lin Er dragged Gao Ming to the model airplane shop, rushing straight into the private assembly room, surprising him because he didn't understand how she knew this place. She looked for the colorful fighter jet she had painted, and Gao Ming took it out of the box. When asked why he kept that item, he confessed he didn't remember the origin, only feeling it was very special, so he kept it. He vaguely remembered hearing a woman's voice talking about painting the airplane, but couldn't clearly remember who it was. Hearing that, Lin Er sadly asked to take back the airplane. Gao Ming agreed, realizing at the same time that the item was related to her, while Lin Er just said it was extremely important to her, but didn't know how to explain. Back home, Gao Ming was so absorbed in thinking about the sunflowers that he got a headache. He called Luo Zhou to ask when Lin Er joined the company. Luo Zhou said he hired her himself, vaguely remembering it was before the new year and would check again, while Gao Ming felt she was familiar, as if she had been there for a very long time. Luo Zhou then teased that the boss intended to kick him to the curb to replace him, leaving Gao Ming only rolling his eyes and hanging up. In the company, everyone discussed organizing a birthday party for Gao Ming, but Luo Zhou was worried because he had never celebrated it before, yet this year he agreed too easily, fearing that if not done well, it would ruin things. Lin Er happened to walk by and was immediately noticed. Luo Zhou hurriedly pulled her over to ask for her opinion. Lin Er thought booking up to 30 tables was too flashy, and Gao Ming definitely wouldn't like it. Asked why she understood him so well, she glossed over it, saying she was observant, then voluntarily took responsibility for organizing the birthday, guaranteeing to do it exactly to Gao Ming's liking. Lin Er organized the birthday party for Gao Ming right at the office. She wore a pretty white dress and secretly prepared a fighter jet model as a gift. When Gao Ming walked in, he smiled at the scene. However, Huan Jin suddenly appeared with a cooperation contract with Fu Song, standing next to Gao Ming looking like a perfect match, making Lin Er feel sad. Gao Ming let everyone cut the cake and take the day off, then took Jean into the room to discuss business without noticing that Lin Air had quietly left. Drinking beer alone, Lin Air forgot the model airplane and the birthday card. When Gao Ming saw the gift, he froze and immediately asked Luo Zhou to take him to find her. On the phone call, Lin Air said she was walking to calm down, and Gao Ming thanked her for the party and said he liked it very much. With tears in her eyes, Lin Air wished him a happy birthday. When Gao Ming guessed she was at the beach where they had gone together, Lin Air slipped up and confirmed it, then hurriedly said he probably didn't remember anymore. Right at that moment, her phone fell into the beer and turned off, and someone fell into the water. Hearing the news that the person who just called had gone into the water, Gao Ming immediately jumped in after her, even though he didn't know how to swim. Lin Air ran over in panic, while Luo Zhou said that Gao Ming had already gone into the water. Just as Gao Ming was about to go under, Lin Air managed to swim over in time to save him and perform CPR. Thanks to that, Gao Ming gradually regained consciousness, and his memories of her also came flooding back. In the car, Lin Air worriedly asked about his condition, while Gao Ming looked at her intently, confessing that he had forgotten her for a long time. Lin Air burst into tears, saying that it didn't matter anymore. Gao Ming hugged her, apologizing for hurting her and promising never to leave her again. He gently dried her hair, continuing to apologize, while Lin Air softly responded with a kiss, marking the moment the two truly found each other again. Lin Air woke up in Gao Ming's arms, and the two exchanged a familiar morning kiss. Gao Ming went to the kitchen to prepare food for her, making Lin Air smile radiantly for the first time, but right at that moment, the system announced the mission was completed and she could leave. Before the joy could be complete, Lin Air's tears fell, not out of happiness but out of frustration. Watching Gao Ming make breakfast, Lin Air said if she could wake up to this scene every day, she would be very happy. Gao Ming gently replied that as long as she liked it, he was willing to do it every day. Lin Air felt this happiness was unreal, and Gao Ming admitted everything seemed to be arranged, including him forgetting her, as if someone had intentionally interfered. Seeing Lin Air tense, he held her hand, reassuring her that no matter how it was arranged, their story still had to be written by themselves. Only then did Lin Air truly smile. Gao Ming and Lin Air went to the company together, hand in hand, causing the NPCs to whisper about the office romance until Luo Zhou yelled at them to disperse. While discussing the announcement of the patent, Lin Air expressed absolute trust in Gao Ming, only worrying that he would regret what he had traded. Luo Zhou continued to complain about workplace romance, but as soon as he saw the two holding hands, he immediately changed his tune, even getting teased back by Gao Ming. Strangely, Luo Zhou didn't remember at all when the two started dating. When Gao Ming mentioned Lin Air used to work at Yinsheng and was pulled over by him, Luo Zhou claimed it was only because the marketing department was short-staffed. In Luo Zhou's perception, Gao Ming and Lin Air only fell for each other after the birthday party, making him give a thumbs up praising the boss for being so slick. Gao Ming became tense recalling the time at the hospital, where he heard Lin Air complain to the system that he was a real person, someone who truly existed in this world. Those words and actions made everything terrifyingly real. Not long after, Litao announced the decision to allow everyone to use their patents for free until the Lunar New Year. Lin Air invited Gao Ming to her house to celebrate because his parents were away, but he declined due to being busy with work. Just then, his father texted admitting his ability and entrusting Lu Tao's future to him, making Gao Ming smile in response, feeling his dream was finally coming true. Lin Air congratulated him, and Gao Ming held her hand, saying he had a new wish but didn't want to reveal it yet. When he intended to take Lin Air home, she said she could go back by herself because he had been too busy lately. Gao Ming gently kissed her forehead and wished her a good new year. Afterward, Gao Ming went to work, while Lin Air stayed home sulking because she hadn't received any messages from him for a long time. Her sister called her out to help decorate the house and quickly guessed her sister had a new boyfriend. Their father brought back a giant squid with a strong smell, making the two sisters complain loudly. Suddenly, Gao Ming appeared at her house, even though he said he had other plans before. The sister ran out to see, and Lin Air hurriedly introduced him as her boyfriend. The sister scanned him from head to toe and whispered that he wasn't bad, while Lin Air replied proudly, surprising her sister. When the father appeared, Gao Ming actively greeted him and introduced himself. On the occasion of his first visit, the father immediately brought out Lin Air's elementary school photo album to show off, making the atmosphere both intimate and lively. Gao Ming brought New Year's gifts for both Lin Air's father and sister, all very suitable because he had actually visited the house before. The whole family celebrated the New Year together in a warm, happy atmosphere. While chatting, Lin Air's father also told Gao Ming to work hard, because now Lin Air was the assistant to the chairman, and he himself was the owner of the company. Going into the private room, Lin Air chatted intimately with Gao Ming, while her sister secretly took pictures of the two and ran away, looking extremely mischievous. Afterward, the two went for a walk until Lin Air's legs were tired. On the way back, she hugged him and accidentally touched his coat pocket, discovering a box inside. Using the excuse of being thirsty, she left, but her heart was racing because she thought it was an engagement ring. In reality, inside were just earrings Gao Ming's mother bought as a New Year's gift for her. When Gao Ming opened the box, Lin Air was both panicked and embarrassed, blaming him for not saying it sooner and causing her to misunderstand. Gao Ming took Lin Air to the model airplane shop. As soon as the door opened, a space filled with purple flowers and balloons he meticulously prepared was revealed. Lin Air immediately thought it was a proposal, but intentionally changed the subject, making Gao Ming visibly sad. She intended to drag him away, using the excuse that the shop was having an event, but Gao Ming held her hand back, saying she should have understood the meaning of everything he prepared. He looked at her and asked directly, did she really want to be with him or not? Lin Air, with red eyes, admitted she also looked forward to and hoped for it, but begged Gao Ming not to do it now. When he asked if she was afraid of marriage and affirmed that no matter what happened they would overcome it together, Lin Air just sadly told him to trust her, that she only wanted to be with him a little longer, even just for one day. Gao Ming recalled the time she half-jokingly told him to propose on the last day of the year because the world was about to end. He hugged her tightly, choking up as he said that even just one day left was better than the words forever. His eyes also filled with tears. Entering the bathroom, Lin Air received a notification from the system. She was forced into a 72-hour countdown because she had obstructed the proposal many times. If she caused Gao Ming's proposal to fail, the world of the people related to her would collapse. That night, Lin Air tossed and turned unable to sleep, quietly looking at Gao Ming's face and telling herself if she couldn't change anything, she would fully enjoy these last 72 hours. When she closed her eyes, Gao Ming silently turned to look at her, full of heartbreak. The next morning, Lin Air got up early to prepare a lavish breakfast for Gao Ming, saying today would be a good day. She asked if he was busy with company work for the next few days, then proactively suggested he propose to her the day after tomorrow. Gao Ming was surprised by the change, while Lin Air just said she wanted time to prepare. After a moment of stunned silence, he smiled and agreed. Afterward, Zhu Ming and Hu Han invited the two of them to try dishes at a Chinese restaurant. Lin Air immediately understood this was a menu tasting for the wedding reception. Looking at the radiantly happy couple, she couldn't hide the sadness in her eyes. Zhu Ming excitedly said she was waiting to eat Gao Ming and Lin Air's wedding cake, then invited her to go choose wedding dresses together. Lin Air just looked at Hu Han, sighed softly, her heart heavy. On the way back, Lin Air asked Gao Ming if he believed she could know the future beforehand. Gao Ming just laughed, taking it as a joke. Lin Air said later he would be very successful, and Dr. Wei would also become extremely excellent, making Gao Ming laugh even more and attribute it to his hard work. However, when Lin Air seriously said that the next day Hu Han would encounter a mishap and asked Gao Ming to help keep it back for a day so her friend could get married safely, her attitude made him unable to take it lightly. The next morning, Lin Air immediately called Hu Han, asked if he had taken leave yet, and then forced him to go check out wedding hotels with her. She was so determined that Hu Han was forced to promise to take leave from work. Throughout the session, Lin Air chose everything very carefully, making Hu Han tired and annoyed. Gao Ming also came to assist, helping her keep him there. Even though Hu Han was worried about work, the two still didn't let him leave. Finally, Gao Ming proactively chatted, advising him to consider changing careers because the job was too dangerous. If something happened, what would happen to Zhu Ming? Hu Han immediately said he had discussed it with Zhu Ming beforehand, and she agreed as well as accepted his choice. Before Hu Han could finish his sentence, a huge explosion occurred at his unit, forcing him to immediately return to handle it. Gao Ming stared at Lin Air in shock, while she calmly asked if he wasn't here, would Hu Han still get hurt and would anyone die? After confirming that no one died, Hu Han left in a hurry. At home, Zhu Ming was so worried she couldn't sleep. Hu Han didn't return until the fire was under control, even though the road where the accident happened was in his unit's jurisdiction. Hu Han just said he was on leave today and didn't say where he went or what he did. The two sat on the sofa together, talking about life after marriage. Hu Han wanted a simple, peaceful life like they had now, and Zhu Ming smiled, saying they would hold hands and live like that until they were old. Meanwhile, Gao Ming and Lin Air had a simple wine celebration at home. Lin Air watched Gao Ming quietly as he pulled her in for a kiss and fed her a cherry. They both laughed happily. In that peaceful moment, Lin Air suddenly realized that if she could change Han's fate, maybe she could change her own too. She just didn't know where to start yet. The next day, Lin Air went with Zhu Ming to try on wedding dresses. Zhu Ming looked like a beautiful, radiant princess, which moved Lin Air, and she teased that Han would definitely lose his mind if he saw her. They laughed and talked about their future happiness. And Zhu Ming even joked that if they weren't together anymore later, she would definitely kick Han far away. But before the joy was even complete, Zhu Ming suddenly got a call. She was so shocked, she dropped her phone when she learned Han had been taken to the emergency room and ultimately didn't make it. Her world felt like it collapsed. Lin Air immediately held Zhu Ming tight and cried with her. After that, Zhu Ming went home and sat there in a dazed drawing, thinking back on their memories and sketching Han in his police uniform. Lin Air quietly came over and gave her a light hug. In the end, the memory of their love only remained in a birthday card. Lin Air went home and hugged Gao Ming's arm while crying. He comforted her, saying that what's meant to happen will happen, and as long as they loved each other, there was nothing to regret. Lin Air choked up, saying she didn't want it to end like that. Gao Ming gently replied that no one can stay with someone forever, but in that limited time, having loved each other deeply is enough warmth to carry for a lifetime. Lin Air was stunned, stood up, looked Gao Ming straight in the eyes, and asked how he would face her if they were forced apart one day, and what he would do if they only had 24 hours left. Gao Ming held back his tears and smiled, saying they should live every moment like it was their last day, very happily, and that would be enough. On the morning of their last day, Gao Ming said he knew what he wanted to do and asked Lin Air to let him take her along. He held her hand gently and led her to the old coffee shop. This time, he personally made her the drink she once made for him, saying that taste is a person's longest-lasting memory. Lin Air smiled sadly, saying she would remember that flavor forever. After that, Gao Ming took Lin Air to the skating rink, where he skated very skillfully. They were so sweet together, constantly kissing. They went to the claw machine and got a baby rabbit, then took sticker photos together. Lin Air even taught him how to pose for a double heart photo. In the last photo, Gao Ming said he'd pick the effect, but he chose an old age filter for them, making Lin Air almost burst into tears. She secretly wished they could stay together until their hair turned white. Gao Ming quietly thought about the regret of not being able to grow old with her. Looking at the photo, Gao Ming still said gently that when Lin Air got old, she definitely wouldn't look like the picture, but would still be as beautiful as she is now. Both had red eyes, trying to smile through the pain of the approaching goodbye. In the evening, Gao Ming and Lin Air ate dumplings at their usual night market. While eating, Gao Ming asked about future plans, from holiday schedules to anniversary ideas. And Lin Air playfully replied that rain or shine, she wanted to sit on the back of his bike and hold an umbrella for him. They teased each other intimately, and Gao Ming just smiled gently and tucked her hair back. When Lin Air let it slip that she would be sad if she couldn't eat these delicious dumplings later, Gao Ming went to ask the owner for the recipe because he knew she loved them. He learned to cook while folding a piece of paper into a heart shape, then brought her a bowl of dumplings he made himself. Lin Air praised that they tasted just like the shops, and Gao Ming handed her the recipe folded into a heart, telling her to keep it until the right time, then gently tucked it into her pocket. Lin Air laughed while remembering the first time she and Gao Ming came to the shop, when he had hired someone to take secret photos for the newspaper and even secretly bought the article to keep as a memory. Before, she didn't understand people in love and thought they did stupid things, but since meeting him, she realized she was no different. Gao Ming held her hand, saying every memory between them was etched in his heart, and even if they never met again, he wouldn't regret it. But the last part was drowned out by a mic, so Lin Air didn't hear it clearly. He just reassured her and took her to a nearby amusement park. Even though the park was closed, Gao Ming just snapped his fingers and all the lights came on. Lin Air laughed and teased him, saying this trick was old and only worked if the guy was handsome enough, then excitedly demanded to play every game. They experienced all the rides in the park, took countless photos and selfies, holding hands tight as if the world only had the two of them. Finally, Lin Air dragged him to the carousel because he said he'd never had a chance to fully enjoy an amusement park like this. She said that when she was little, she only wanted the ride to go fast, but now she wanted it to slow down so she could look at the person next to her and cherish every moment. Lin Air believed the carousel could make wishes come true, and the things she wished for before were just simple things like getting gifts or good grades on exams. Gao Ming asked Lin Air if she wanted to make a wish and told her to close her eyes. As soon as she closed them, he knelt down to propose, saying that although their time together wasn't long, the memories they had were deep and unforgettable, and he hoped she would marry him and spend the rest of her life with him. Lin Air burst into tears, hesitating at the mention of the rest of her life, and Gao Ming choked up, saying that whether it was a lifetime, a day, or a short moment, as long as they were together, it was complete. Lin Er nodded yes. He carefully put the ring on her, and they hugged and kissed in tears, a moment of extreme happiness mixed with deep sorrow. After that, they rode the carousel one last time and took a photo of the moment they exchanged rings, but suddenly Lin Er vanished, and only the ring fell in front of Gao Ming. He stood silently in the empty space, whispering "I love you" to her. Lin Er woke up in the present world, with everyone pushing her to do her makeup for the live stream. Though still confused, she remembered the proposal clearly, but there was no ring on her hand. When she went to find Gao Ming, she was just pointed to another man who was introduced as the one about to take over the company, leaving her stunned, while the staff quickly said Lin Er was sick. At this point, she realized today was the day she returned, 12 days before her first meeting with Gao Ming at the company. Even though she was told to cancel the live stream, Lin Er was certain that Gao Ming definitely existed in this world. Following clues from the novel, Lin Er took a taxi to find him, but no matter where she went, she couldn't find Lu Tao Company, Gao Ming's house, or anyone who knew him, as if they were on the same bus but belonged to two different spaces. Walking past the stone bench under the tree, she remembered his words about her living too fast, only focusing on the destination and forgetting to enjoy the journey. At the same time, in the novel world, Gao Ming also came to that spot, sat down, and quietly watched her through the pager, bringing a warmth that was hard to describe. After that, Lin Er went back to work. Her subordinates advised her to stop looking for a novel character because she would never find him. But Lin Er firmly believed that one day she would find Gao Ming, because he definitely existed in this world. Finally, she decided to continue her work and said she would go on the live stream that day. During the live stream, AI Ching suddenly appeared, sparking a debate on love. Lin Er calmly and confidently replied that she used to not understand love. She didn't believe in unconditional sacrifice and always thought people could only count on themselves. But now, she realized she had judged too quickly. To her, a good love makes people gentler, but also stronger. It's about loving who people really are instead of chasing an ideal image. This point of view made the young people around her nod in agreement. AI Ching argued back, saying there needs to be a clear line between novels and reality. She claimed that romance in novels is just poison that easily makes girls go blind. Lin Er choked up as she talked about her sincere love with someone from another time, someone totally foreign to the modern world. All the planning and strategies were useless. Only when she let go of everything and treated him with total sincerity did she truly get that love. Even though the story sounds a bit old-fashioned, every moment they had together brought her deep happiness, even though they can't meet again because they are from different eras. She believes that is true love, when two steady hearts find and cherish each other. This left everyone stunned. In a state of shock, Lin Er went home. Old memories rushed back when the system automatically introduced bone broth dumplings. She took out the heart-shaped dumpling recipe, the only thing she brought back from the other world. Inside, she discovered a letter Gao Ming had left behind. In the letter, he said that she was the one who walked into his life and brought him love and happiness he had never known. He told her not to be sad, because life is long enough to prove your love for someone. He promised that no matter where she was, he would find her. After reading the letter, Lin Er burst into tears and started making dumplings using that recipe. In another world, Gao Ming was quietly eating dumplings. He was looking at photos on a small digital camera that captured their last day together. In the last video, Lin Er looked straight into the lens and told him not to forget her. Then she changed her mind and sadly told him it was better to just forget. Suddenly, the pager rang. It showed an image of Lin Er sitting and eating dumplings right across from him. Gao Ming reached out his hand, but he couldn't touch her. It was a feeling of endless heartbreak. At the model shop, the old pager rang again. Gao Ming looked at it and decided he had to go find Lin Er. No matter where she was, when she needed him most, he had to be by her side. On the other side, Lin Er was busy assembling and painting a model plane when she got a package. It contained a Y2K model plane kit and some candy. Seeing the sender's name was Gao Ming, she immediately ran outside to look for him. She bumped into familiar people like Luo Zhou, Zhu Ming, and Hu Han, but no one seemed to recognize her. Lin Er smiled as she watched them walk away and then ran to the model plane shop. There, the model she gave Gao Ming for his birthday was on display in a glass case. It was placed right in the Capricorn spot, which was the missing piece in his 12 zodiac collection. Tears streamed down her face. She quickly opened the door to the assembly room and walked in. She saw the bright fighter jet model that she had painted herself, sitting in a box with some candy. Everything was exactly like it was in the novel world. Suddenly, Gao Ming appeared behind her, and gently said hello after being apart for so long. Lin Air burst into tears and ran to hug him tight. Finally, the two of them really met again in the real world and shared a gentle kiss. The movie closed with words like the ending of a novel. In the end, they found each other. As for how Gao Ming got to Lin Air's world, that's another story. Maybe it's hidden in the pager and in every step he took, following the path where love leads. They both believe that as long as you have enough faith and enough love, love can cross both space and time. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for the latest movies.